you doing, Jar? I just bought Star Wars!
Wow, Mickey, that's really cool. I mean, at one point in time, I would have been very nervous if you actually did that.
Haha, golly!
But when you bought Marvel, all you seemed to do was increase the budget, and most of the movies have been better than ever. Like, don't get me wrong, they're starting to feel a little bit samey and less unique than they used to, but I do know that you're building up to that Infinity War movie, so I'm sure you're saving most of your unique ideas for that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been waiting for a new trilogy for a while now. My nostalgia goggles are as big as your ears. And thanks to George Lucas not being involved, my expectations are through the roof. I hate that guy. I am so happy he has nothing to do with Star Wars anymore. And there's no way that this sequel trilogy could be as bad as the prequel trilogy.
After the third Star Wars movie came out.
Wow, Mickey, that was horrible. I didn't think you could do it, but I now actually appreciate the prequel trilogy, and I miss George Lucas.
Oh, now I'm gonna ruin Marvel!
In September 9th, 2022, I uploaded a video called Why I Fell Out of Love with the MCU. After She-Hulk came out, I just had to cut ties with them and tell the MCU, I no longer love you. But the MCU has only really been around for about a decade and a half, and I honestly thought the first Iron Man movie was just okay when it came out. It's not like I really grew up with it as far back as I can remember, but there is something that is at the very back of my memory card. A movie that holds a special place in my hard drive because it's the first movie I can ever remember seeing when I was a wee little robot. And that was Star Wars: A New Hope. The entire original trilogy was already made before I was even built in the factory. It had everything a young kid could want in a movie. A princess being captured by a guy in black armor. A young boy from a farm is taken on an adventure with a wise old man and given a special unique sword. And they have to save the princess from a fortress, and along for the ride as an outlaw with a non-human but still humanoid-like creature. And okay, hang on a second. This is just the most generic fantasy story ever. Princess is held in a fortress guarded by a black knight, and a boy from a farm needs to use his magic sword to save her. The only difference is it's in space. Okay, I'm sure it's a little bit more complicated than that. I mean, it's not like the farm boy has to go to a swamp at one point to train with a pointed ear fae-like creature, and god damn it! Yeah, Star Wars isn't a sci-fi like Star Trek, The Expanse, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, or anything like that. It's just a generic fantasy movie, complete with wizards, evil empires, and even pig goblins. But in space! But that's also part of the reason why I love it so much. Clichés don't exist because they're bad. Clichés exist because they're good. Humans just naturally gravitate towards stories like this. Sure, it's nothing special now, but taking a generic fantasy story that we've heard a million times, taking away the medieval setting and replacing it with futuristic technology was actually a pretty unique idea. It basically used all the cliches at once. Our hero is related to the big bad. It's a fight between good and evil, stuff about a chosen one, and just so many more. But because it used so many cliches all at once, it actually kind of ruined some of them for a few decades. Any movie that came out afterwards that was even vaguely similar to Star Wars would be compared to it. You can't have a villain be the hero's father without people immediately thinking about Darth Vader. The first Aragon book is stupidly similar to New Hope. Both of them start off with a princess who's fighting with the rebellion, with a small force escorting her, and they're being chased by a much larger force being led by the Emperor's top man who has mystical powers. Until something that the Emperor really wants is sent away by the princess, that lands in the hands of a farm boy who lives with his uncle. I could go on and on about the similarities, but we're getting off topic. Now, one of the biggest reasons as to why I have a connection to Star Wars and why it's completely unavoidable for me is because my real name is Luke. Growing up and constantly hearing people say, "Luke, I am your father," was so fucking annoying. I remember one guy made that joke and then said, "Oh, you've probably heard that one a lot, haven't you?" And I sarcastically said, "No, you're the first best one. Oh god, I can't wait to see how many of you put that in the comments. There was also Luke, may the force be with you, but it was a little less common. Funny thing is though, Darth Vader actually never says that in the movie. He actually says, no, I am your father. Also, here's a fun fact. You may notice that Luke's reaction to Darth Vader saying this seems a little bit off. Well, you see, George Lucas was really nervous about this plot twist being leaked. So he had the actor for Darth Vader, not James Earl Jones, the guy in the suit, say, no, Obi-Wan destroyed your father. Only George Lucas, James Earl Jones, and I think a few other people knew what the twist was going to be, which in a way is technically correct, from a certain point of view. Now, my parents only had the first two movies on VHS, remember when those were a thing? So it wasn't until a few years later when I saw Return of the Jedi. Now I understand where all those scenes were from when I played the arcade Star Wars game at Chuck E. Cheese. It was almost like I was there in the early 80s waiting for this movie to come out. My mom picked it up from a yard sale. Do people do those anymore? I was older when I saw this movie, so it was easier for me to understand the themes. And this was the movie that made Luke Skywalker into my personal hero. And it's because despite Darth Vader killing his mentor, his friend Biggs, and chopping off his hand, Luke never gave up on his father. He knew there just had to be good in him somewhere. He let himself get captured. He fought against his father, and for a brief moment, he let his anger take control of him. Even nearly sacrificed himself to a slow, electrifying, painful death, just to show his father that he believed there was good in him, and this is his final chance to make things right. And if he's wrong, he'll die, but he's still putting all his faith in him. Even after being told by Darth Vader and his two mentors, Obi-Wan and Yoda, that there was no good left in him. This redeems his father just in time, and while his physical body may have been destroyed, his spirit at least still lives on. The name Luke actually means Lightbringer. No, not that Lightbringer. God, you guys completely killed the moment. The point is that Luke Skywalker, this fictional character, taught me to never lose hope in the ability for people to change for the better. And after I saw this movie, I discovered there were 2 more Star Wars movies that were prequels, with a third one on the way. Now, the prequel trilogy is pretty controversial. There were a few defenders of it at first, but after the second one came out, basically the common consensus was they were absolutely terrible. But there were a lot of people who did secretly like them, and in fact, loved them. And when Last Jedi was released, all those fans of the prequels who were in hiding finally came out of their basements to defend these movies. To give my brief opinion on the prequel trilogy, I of course loved them when I was a kid, because to me it was just more Star Wars. But as an adult, I do see that they have a few problems.
Wrong.
They're not as bad as the haters claim them to be, and they're not as good as the people who like these movies say they are.
Wrong.
The first one is kind of filler. Not really all that much happens aside from Anakin becoming Obi-Wan's Padawan and Palpatine becoming the Supreme Chancellor. Aside from basically those 2 things, nothing else is really all that important. We didn't need Anakin to build C-3PO. We didn't need to know that Padme owned R2-D2. The Gungans were completely pointless, as well as the pod racing. But the royal ships looked pretty cool, along with the battle droids and Darth Maul. The sequel, Attack of the Clones, is considered the worst one, but I still like it better than the first. Seeing all those Jedis fighting along guys who wore armor that looked very similar to the Stormtrooper armor was just so cool to me. And yeah, the romance between Padme and Anakin is pretty cringe. And everybody was memeing on that line Anakin said about sand. But I don't think that line is quite as bad as most people think it is. Keep in mind, Anakin was a slave on a desert planet. What I believe this line is trying to convey is that Anakin just hates his old life, but he loves his new one with Padme, and he more than likely believes that if he never met her, he would still be on that desert planet, full of sand that is coarse, rough, and it gets everywhere. A lot of the clone trooper, ship, and tank designs are cool. The super battle droids are cool. And while a lot of people don't like Yoda versus Count Dooku, I just think it's badass badass finally seeing him fight. I think Count Dooku is also pretty cool. I mean, come on, he's played by Saruman. And dare I say it, I actually like the politics in this movie. The Confederation of Independent Systems, aka the Separatists, leaving the Republic so that they can govern themselves sounds very realistic. Personally, I think their actions are much more justifiable and have a lot more nuance than the Empire ever did. And then there was Star Wars Clone Wars. Whoa now, not that one. That's Star Wars The Clone Wars. I'm talking about the Samurai Jack one. This is where we got our first on-screen appearance of General Grievous and Ventress. I don't know if this movie is considered canon, but in Star Wars The Clone Wars, when Anakin first comes across Ventress, he does reference that they had a fight previously, which could be a reference to Star Wars Clone Wars when he fought her as a Padawan. Yeah, she falls off a cliff, but that doesn't mean she's dead. Okay, I'm sick of saying Star Wars Clone Wars and Star Wars The Clone Wars. I'm just gonna call the one without the in it the Samurai Jack one. Now, the Samurai Jack ones have a little bit too much action in them, but wow, I think this is the most powerful on-screen appearance of the Jedi that we have ever seen, especially when it comes to Mace Windu and Yoda, who canonically were the two most powerful Jedi at the time. By the way, did you know Mace Windu has a purple lightsaber just because Samuel L. Jackson wanted one?
I figure out who we had to talk to about your light color, your lightsaber color.
Oh, well, good guys are green and blue, bad guys are red. That's just the way it works.
There's no purple left?
You might get purple.
Also, the first time I have ever seen Samuel L. Jackson in a movie was actually the Star Wars prequel movies. Yeah, I actually thought this actor was well known for playing wise old black men for the longest time, until I saw basically every other movie he was in. I guess they cast him because they couldn't get Morgan Freeman. Now, apparently this hybrid of Star Wars and Samurai Jack was used as promotional material for Revenge of the Sith. It explains why General Grievous is coughing, and how Palpatine was captured. By the way, I saw this after I saw the prequel trilogy, so I was like, whoa, General Grievous is super badass. Why isn't he like that in the movie? And then later Mace Windu force crushes his lungs and I'm like, oh, now I get it. Oh, and that's also how Palpatine was captured. Now granted, a lot of this was later retconned by Star Wars The Clone Wars. So now we're gonna talk about the next Star Wars movie, and no, we're still not at the sequel trilogy yet. The Star Wars The Clone Wars movie. Well, this movie isn't completely terrible. At the time it came out, prequel lovers and prequel haters all agreed that it was the worst Star Wars movie so far. Anakin now has this annoying Padawan. God, did we all hate her back then. There's this weird plot focused around Jabba's son, and we have this new villain who's this bizarre looking Hutt who can speak perfect English. The CGI looked a bit wonky. That hair looks like it's made of solid steel. And the action was a complete downgrade from the Star Wars Samurai Jack movies. Really? This is the one that got to be in theaters, while the other one was only straight to DVD? There is clearly no justice in the world. This must be the work of the Sith. I actually saw this movie in theaters with one of my friends, and to me, the only thing that was good about it was that the droids were hilarious. So when the show came out, people had pretty damn low expectations. But the first few episodes completely shattered those expectations because they were even worse than we thought they were going to be. The droids were a bit too goofy and it felt more like a kid's show than a family show.
Take this upstairs, and be sure not to drop it. Whoa! Whoa! Those 631s are not the brightest lights on the ship.
Even in the movie, they weren't this bad.
My troops are in position to begin searching the swamps for these rumored underwater villages. They will not stay hidden for long.
The animation looked even worse, especially this infamous scene.
What happened?
You owe Rexter your skin, Sky Guy.
Just doing my job, sir. It was your plan that won the day.
Grievous is AWOL, but his fleet of tinnies is nothing but spare parts.
Good work, both of you. Where's R2?
I'm sorry, Master. He's gone.
In episode 1, Yoda along with a bunch of clones are trying to get this group of aliens who seem to be the same race as Watto, I believe they're called the Todarians, to join them in the fight against the Separatists. But Ventress shows up first, and she tries to get the king to join the Separatists instead. The king wants to know who is greater, 1 Jedi or 100 battle droids. So the king is only picking the stronger side of the two. Wow, what a little bitch, and a stupid one at that. 1 space wizard versus 100 battle droids is not going to show you which of the two sides is stronger in a war. There are at the very least hundreds of millions of battle droids, and only about 10,000 Jedi, and Yoda is the strongest one. Now sure, Yoda does have some help from the clone troopers, and Ventress does send a lot more than just battle droids. She also sends super battle droids, tanks, and even droidicas. Honestly, I think she's losing a lot more troops than what this planet is worth. Keep in mind, droidicas are about 200 times the price of your average battle droid. The animation isn't good, the action isn't all that great, and it just feels like a chore to sit through. The only good part is when Yoda sits down with the clones and has a chat with them, which really humanized them in my opinion. So I decided to write this show off for a very long time, but one day I got into a debate with one of my friends on which was better, Star Wars Clone Wars or Star Wars The Clone Wars. Obviously, I was arguing in favor of the Samurai Jack one, and while he did concede that it definitely has better action scenes, he told me a lot of interesting things that made me give the show another chance, and I'm glad I did. Ahsoka quickly became one of my favorite Star Wars characters. Her story arc is very interesting, especially when she leaves the Jedi Order. Watching her grow from an annoying kid who holds her lightsaber upside down to a very mature, kind, and wise leader who wields 2 lightsabers gave me this feeling that I haven't felt since Dragon Ball Z watching Gohan grow. A lot of the Separatist super weapons were pretty badass. They really characterized the clones. Like sure, I already knew about Commander Cody, Captain Rex, and Commander Fox, but I was surprised to find myself really invested in the story of 2 clones, Waxer and Boyle, and the scene where Rex has to kill his own brothers during Order 66. Watching Ahsoka take off his helmet and him crying underneath actually got me to gasp when I saw it. It was so brilliantly executed. But not as brilliantly executed as when Rex had to execute his own brothers. Oh! They give a lot of characterization to Anakin Skywalker, Count Dooku, General Grievous, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ventress, and just a whole bunch of other people. They even bring back Darth Maul with sick robot legs. Apparently he has a brother who's absolutely jacked, and him and Ventress are actually part of the same species. Yeah, the women look nothing like the men. Now aside from Ahsoka, I think Darth Maul might actually have my favorite story arc in the series. When his brother finds him, he's on this planet that is used as a landfill. He's been there for so many years that he's gone crazy. When his mind is repaired, he desires revenge against Kenobi, and he just fucks up his life. Was killing his master not enough? You had to do it to his girlfriend too? He even becomes King of Mandalore at one point. The big climactic battle between him and Ahsoka was actually brilliantly done. Wow, it just hit me. Ahsoka is a female Star Wars character who is actually well written, and I actually like her. Disney's gonna have a lot of work on their hands to ruin this one. Also, maybe it's just me, but I've noticed she wears more and more clothing the older she gets. So you know how I said this show felt more like a kid's show than a family show? Well, I certainly don't think that anymore. I do sometimes forget that the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender wasn't nearly as good as seasons 2 and 3. Now as for Star Wars Rebels, I haven't seen it yet. Yep, unfortunately, that's all I gotta say about it. But I do know that Darth Maul shows up in it, so I'll check it out. Well, I've put this off for long enough. Now let's get into when Disney bought Star Wars, and how I slowly but surely fell out of love with it. Now the skit at the start of this video was genuinely how I felt about Disney buying Star Wars. I thought because they did a good job with Marvel, just buying it up and not messing with it that much, at least at first, And with how much they could pull from the Star Wars extended universe, along with how much money Disney has, I thought they just had to do a good job. And I thought if they did a bad job, it would be at least better than the Star Wars prequels. And if it was worse than those, I thought at least they won't ruin so many beloved characters. And if they did that, at least Luke Skywalker would be okay, right? So first, let me go over what I actually liked about the Star Wars sequel movies. The first 5 minutes, and that's about it. We had new characters, the special effects and props looked amazing. Okay, the one good thing that came from Disney buying Star Wars is just how amazing the effects are. But that's just eye candy. Special effects don't make a movie good. I'm talking to you, James Cameron. But of course, the coolest scene is when Kylo Ren freezes a blaster bolt in midair. Now granted, I don't know how this works. Yes, Jedi can move objects with their mind, but did he really just catch something that logically would be going at the speed of light? And also just hold it there? Like when he leaves, it just keeps flying. But I do still have some issues with these first 5 minutes. We have a droid whose head looks like R2-D2, and a body that is just a stupid design. We have stormtroopers again, and a villain wearing all black. And they're chasing a guy who is in possession of intel they seek. And he narrowly gets out of dodge before they get him. Yeah, this is a complete ripoff of Aragon. I mean Star Wars A New Hope. Now, we already knew that they were going to do some of this stuff after we saw the trailers, but this was a lot more on the nose than I was expecting. But there are some things that are different. A stormtrooper goes rogue, and we haven't seen that in a Star Wars movie yet. So let's go over our two characters we have. There's Poe. He's good at flying a ship, and I think he starts a mutiny one time that leads to nothing. But as for the rogue stormtrooper Finn, he's a lot more interesting. Now, apparently there was this big deal about him being black. Granted, we only had white people in A New Hope, but in The Empire Strikes Back, we had Lando Calrissian, who was the only black guy in Star Wars for quite a while. But then in the prequel trilogy, we had another black guy, who was the captain of the Royal Guards. And then later on, it was his nephew, also Mace Windu, the most powerful human Jedi, was also black. So for black people in Star Wars, we have an extremely wealthy man, two captain of the guards, and the second most powerful Jedi on the council. But Finn is just a generic soldier. But at the very least, he is one of the main characters. Now in this movie, while he's not that tough and he's a bit of a coward who constantly runs away from conflict, his story arc shows him getting braver and braver until he finally, with lightsaber in hand, faces his fear, stares down Kylo Ren, the most powerful man he knows, and he just gives him a look that says, "Bring it on, bitch." Oh my god, this sounds like an interesting character. What are they gonna do with him in the next movie? Well, it starts with him doing something silly. Haha, look, he fell on the floor. Then he has a story arc that leads to nothing. Oh boy, he's immediately back to being a coward? Oh wow, looks like all his character development got reversed. But at least he gets a new companion. No, not the one from Doctor Who. It's this Asian girl who's an even more hated character than Jar Jar. She will show him the evils of war and how capitalists profit from it, even though he's an fucking ex-stormtrooper. You know, basically a space Nazi. Now there's this deleted scene where Finn and Rey are running away from stormtroopers. Rey is not really good at shooting and Finn is not really good at driving. Eventually they switch. Rey is good at driving, well, I guess just because. I really don't know how she could be. She grew up poor and didn't really own a car. Like, have you ever met someone from New York? They don't know how to drive for shit. But Finn being good at shooting does make sense because after all, he's an ex-stormtrooper. Okay, now real quick, I brought this point up in a previous video and I got a lot of comments along the lines of this. How is that possible? Stormtroopers suck at shooting. Hahaha, no they don't. This is just a myth we Mandela'd ourselves into believing. First of all, the Tusken Raiders are good enough shots to hit speeders. And it's mentioned by Obi-Wan Kenobi that stormtroopers are much more accurate than Tusken Raiders.
Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise.
Now that's shooting down pod racers. Everybody loves to point to that scene in New Hope where they couldn't hit our main characters in a hallway. That's basically the one and only scene people point to, and why they were such bad shots is because they were trying to let Han, Luke, and Leia escape, because they put a tracker on the ship. And on top of that, those who are strong in the Force will be protected. Basically, they get a luck boost. So yeah, the idea that stormtroopers are just terrible shots is a complete myth. So why did they take this scene out of the movie? Well, it's because it makes someone aside from Rey look competent. Here's one thing that I and a lot of other people liked about the original trilogy. Yes, Luke Skywalker was by far the most powerful. He has a lightsaber, he can use the Force, and he's a pretty decent pilot. But Chewie clearly has more physical strength. Han is a better pilot, and Leia's not only much more diplomatic, but she's also a lot better at thinking of a plan. Now, before someone says, "Wait a minute there, Jar, you're complaining about Rey being good at driving for no reason, but Luke is a good pilot for no reason. Can you explain that to me?" Sure, it's mentioned that Luke had a lot of training on the flight simulators when he was training at the Academy. Yeah, most of the arguments from sequel trilogy defenders really just require some basic research into Star Wars to debunk them. I want to make it clear that the opinion that Finn's character was handled terribly is not just an opinion from Star Wars fans, but an opinion from the actor himself. Here's some clips from John Boyega saying how he really feels about the current Star Wars.
You want to remove race out of it, just from a business perspective. Don't tease no black. You know what that does to black people? You know how you guys got everybody motivated around Black Panther? Don't tease no and market no Black Panther, market a black actor and switch and bait.
Switch it, yeah.
You don't do it with white actors. You don't do it. You don't. So don't think you can have this skill set where you're going to put everybody on plasters. You got white people and black people excited. And then we come in and they in it for 5 minutes.
As for Rey's character, well, she's far too powerful, far too good at everything, has no flaws to speak of, and on top of all of that, she's so incredibly bland. But there are so many problems with her character that I'm going to give her own section later on in this video. Anyways, let's get back to reviewing the Star Wars sequel trilogy. So Finn rescues Poe. He is able to do this because Poe is not a woman. They crash land on a desert planet that is not Tatooine. It's just a generic desert planet with only one sun, making it even less unique. Wouldn't it be more interesting if Rey was on a swampy planet, or an ocean planet, or a snowy cold planet, or, you know, any other planet in general aside from a desert planet? Okay, when this movie first came out, I was willing to look past a lot of the, hey, you remember this, nostalgia baiting it was doing. I mean, after all, we haven't had a new Star Wars movie in a while, so I could forgive them for playing it safe. But man, do they really push it. Millennium Falcon, destroying another Death Star. But then again, they do a few unique things, so I'll stop pointing out every similarity I see. Because if I do, this video is going to come out to being 10 hours long. Finn manages to get out of the ship, but it starts sinking, and then it explodes. Well, I guess Poe's dead. Oh no, wait, he's alive later on in the movie, and he's perfectly fine. How does someone survive a ship exploding, let alone in the middle of the desert? I thought this was maybe leading into him possibly being a Jedi and use the Force to sustain himself or protect himself or something, but it's not. He just survives the explosion for no reason given. Finn comes across Rey and she gets attacked by two men who she easily defeats. Keep in mind, Luke got his ass kicked by a sand person and had to be saved. To anyone who believes that Luke is a Gary Stu and Rey isn't a Mary Sue, can you explain to me how that's possible with a scene like this? And here's another question I have. What does Rey beating these two guys add to the story? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You could completely cut it out and legitimately nothing would change. Now, there's two ways this could have added to the story. One, she could have secretly been a Jedi who just had her memories erased, and that's why she's so good at combat. Or two, Finn could have joined the fight and helped her out. That's how they could have originally met and possibly started a friendship over it. But that would involve a man saving a woman, and we can't have that in a modern day movie. Now here's how I would have fixed this scene. Finn would have run in to help Rey, and said things like, "You alien scum! How dare you attack a human?" You see, the Empire is very well known for being bigoted against non-human species. This could set up a storyline for Finn to learn to not be bigoted against non-human races. It makes the Empire look evil in a unique way we haven't seen in the movies, it creates a progressive message, and it gives Finn an actual fucking story arc. But I guess this movie wouldn't have sold as well in China if they did that. By the way, have you ever noticed that Finn got smaller and smaller on the posters as the movies went on, and that he's actually completely taken out of the Chinese version? Yeah, I just want to bring that up so you know that America is not the most racist country in the world. They're then attacked by ships sent from the Empire. Oh, I'm sorry, the First Order. They're so similar, I forgot they're actually different. They go into the Millennium Falcon, which is just sitting there with the keys still in the ignition, and it's fully fueled and everything. I mean, wow, what a convenient thing for the plot to move forward. Out of the tens of billions of ships they could have come across, it just so happened to be that one. In New Hope, if Luke and Ben didn't get on the Millennium Falcon, they would have gotten on some other guy's ship. But to give the film credit for one thing, this action scene is amazing. Flying through the wreckage of a Star Destroyer, having their gun get jammed, and then them doing this really specific maneuver so it can fire and destroy the other ship was just amazing. In fact, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but this might be my favorite ship battle in all of Star Wars. I just wish it was done with characters I actually cared about. Because the Star Wars galaxy, which is canonically about 100 times bigger than our own galaxy, is such a small place, they run into Chewie and Han Solo, who are, actually good characters in this movie. Their characters weren't ruined, and they were used, in my opinion, just the right amount. Han Solo to this day is doing deals with powerful criminal gangs. And of course, right after he meets Rey and Finn, his deals come back to bite him in the ass. Now some of you may say, wait, didn't he become a general and get married to a princess? Wouldn't he settle down after that? Well, it's totally possible that could have happened. He could have also had a midlife crisis, or just missed the thrill of adventure. So personally, this didn't ruin his character for me. That being said, while this action scene with the criminal gangs and the weird looking monsters does look cool, it's completely pointless to the plot. One counter argument I hear from fans is, well, this scene is still shorter than the opening of Return of the Jedi, and that scene was also pretty pointless. Well, the point is, they had to rescue Han, and it also expanded the Star Wars universe a little bit. Plus, those movies came out in the 70s, when people had much greater attention spans. I don't hate this scene nor love this scene, it's just okay. Kylo Ren is talking with Emperor Snoke, who looks like the love child of the alien from Crystal Skull and the Emperor, after he got burned. But who is this guy? Is he a secret apprentice of Emperor Palpatine? Or maybe the opposite, his master, Darth Plagueis the Wise? Or is he just some guy? Well, for the longest time he was, until they made it even lamer with him being a clone of Palpatine who was being puppeted by him. Now, I have not met a single person who defends him being a clone of Emperor Palpatine, but there are some people who defend him just being some random guy. After all, we didn't know how the Emperor came to power for a very long time, and if we're complaining about so many references in this movie, then why would we want another reference? Well, if he is just a random Sith, then how did he come to power? Where was he hiding? I have so many questions. Questions we will never get answers to because he just dies in the next movie. Until later on it's revealed that he's a goddamn clone. Yes, later on I'll get to how the two directors kept on screwing each other over. The effect on him looks pretty terrible, and I don't know why he's a giant fucking hologram. That doesn't seem very cost effective. Like, the Empire just had a giant hologram of the Emperor's face, but the First Order is just the remnants of the Empire. They have a much lower budget. It's also revealed that Kylo Ren is the son of Princess Leia and Han Solo, and that's somewhat accurate to the comics. Our heroes go to a cantina because the director can't stop making references. Rey fixes a problem on the Millennium Falcon that not even Han Solo, the guy who owns the ship and had it for several decades, even know about. This scene, of course, adds nothing to the plot, but it's here to just show you how amazing Rey truly is. We also get Rey's one and only non-Mary Sue moment. She touches a lightsaber, has a vision, gets scared, runs away, and is immediately knocked out by Kylo Ren. Ah yes, that one scene that every Rey defender points to say that she's not a Mary Sue. But this of course leads to her using the Force mind trick without any training and freeing herself. No need to be rescued. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering how this alien woman got Luke's old lightsaber, it's a good question for another time, and as far as I know to this day it hasn't been told. I don't see how it could be that interesting. Someone just probably picked it up after his hand got sliced off. Also, it's pretty convenient that out of all of the locations Han could have taken him to, this was the one that just so happened to have Luke's old lightsaber. Now, the Super Death Star that can absorb stars within to itself, and it's the size of a planet, not just a small moon, shoots a humongous laser that wipes out 5 planets, and it completely wipes out the New Republic. So the remnants of the Empire created something even more powerful than the Empire ever built by several magnitudes. Now, one thing that I did think was pretty cool was this was the planet that the Jedi go to get their Kyber crystals from. The Death Stars also use Kyber crystals, and the Empire did take control of this planet a few years after Order 66. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that's actually something cool they actually did with pre-established canon, although it was still implemented in a pretty lame way. The Empire was able to build the Death Star somewhat secretly because, well, they had control over the galaxy. The First Order clearly doesn't. So how did they get away with making this thing? And they saw what happened to the last 2 Death Stars, so why would they repeat the same plan? Now Finn does see the beam going across the sky before it hits the Republic. Wait a second, was the Republic that close to this planet? Why didn't Han Solo go there instead of this planet? Well, it turns out that everybody can see these beams going across the sky because the Empire is also using some space warping technology so that everybody in the galaxy can see it. Wow, that's stupid. Why is it that every time Disney tries to fix a plot hole in Star Wars, it just makes it 10 times worse? The First Order attacks the canteen. Rey, despite never using a gun before in her life, uses a pistol to take out multiple stormtroopers, and then she's captured. Finn uses a lightsaber and comes across a stormtrooper who has a shield and a gun, who throws it to the side to use this weird electric baton thing. Bro, you have a gun, just shoot him. Oh, but they're actually trying to capture him because he's a traitor. Yeah, if only stormtroopers were able to set their guns to stun or something. Han and Leia meet up again, which is the first and only time it will ever happen in this movie. Finn and Poe meet again. How did Poe survive? Well, it's a good question for another time. The soccer ball droid, just designed to sell toys, shows the last piece of the map to Luke Skywalker's location, which raises a lot of questions. If Luke didn't want to be found, why would he leave this map piece behind? R2 has the rest of the map, so it's useful, but wouldn't you only need one piece? The last piece? I mean, it's a galaxy. Don't they have like an entire map of the galaxy? They would just have to put it in and cross-reference it and say, oh, it's that planet. Kylo takes off his mask, revealing there was no reason for him to have it on in the first place. Because Rey once saw the final piece of the map, which Kylo Ren somehow knows about, he tries to force torture her for the information of Luke's whereabouts. But Rey, despite never using the Force in her life, manages to beat him, and then Kylo stupidly leaves a weak-willed guard to watch over her, letting her easily escape. You know, I've made a lot of rules for what counts as a Mary Sue. I think I'm gonna add a new one, and that's super convenient things happening so the plot can move forward. The new Super Death Star is protected by a shield, which is on the planet itself. I won't lie, I do like how every Death Star is just such a massive improvement over the last one. But after this, I don't see how they can improve it any further. I mean, I hope they don't do something really stupid, like having a whole fleet of planet-busting ships. Now, at first I thought, wow, this planet seems really heavily defended. Maybe they'll keep this planet-killing weapon around and they won't be able to destroy it until the 3rd movie. I mean, every time they've introduced the Death Star, it just immediately gets destroyed in the same movie. It would be a very interesting and welcome change from the original trilogy. But no, of course, they do something really stupid. It turns out that a ship can bypass the shield if it goes into hyperspace. Trust me, this will lead to a lot of problems later on, but I'll get to that when I do. Han Solo flies towards the planet and manages to get out of hyperspace just before hitting it. On his first try, he didn't turn it off too soon, or God forbid too late. Modern computers probably couldn't pull this maneuver off. You know what? Fuck it, that's one Mary Sue point for Han Solo. I'm honestly shocked they didn't have Rey do this, but she was captured, so they couldn't. Finn, Han, and Chewie capture Captain Phasma. I honestly forgot to mention her because she's so irrelevant in these movies. And yes, I know she's played by the giant woman from Game of Thrones. You don't have to tell me in the comments section. She's held at gunpoint and turns off the shield, even though her armor is made of presumably Beskars, so those blasters should bounce right off. Wow, what a wasted character. Not even the other female characters can do something because it's all about Rey. Honestly, I just wish she did something cool. Not gonna lie, I actually thought she might have been Boba Fett's son or something for the longest time. Wasn't she completely loyal to the Empire? Wouldn't she just take the bullet? Does the control room for a shield that's this important really only require one person and it's so close by as well? Man, this movie is stupid. Now that the shield is down, X-Wings go to blow up the planet. All 12 of them. Like, seriously, that's all they got? This planet is covered in soldiers. They're gonna need way more than that. Maybe the Resistance just doesn't have enough ships. Oh wait, they do. If only they had like a really powerful bomber, like a U-bomber to bomb the whole thing. Oh wait, they do. Kylo Ren kills Han Solo and Rey witnesses it, in a similar fashion to Luke witnessing Darth Vader killing Uncle Ben. Wait, that was a mistake on my part, that's from Spider-Man. I meant Ben Kenobi. Chewie manages to shoot him, and despite how powerful we were shown this blaster is just a moment ago, it barely damages Kylo Ren. Maybe the Force was protecting him, or maybe his armor is really good. Now there is a fight scene between Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren. Seeing Finn stand up to Kylo Ren is the first and last time we ever see him do anything cool in these movies. Basically, every everyone thought they were leading into him being force sensitive or something. But no, that would make someone aside from Rey look competent. Also, the Chinese probably wouldn't be too happy about it. Now, Rey doesn't actually defeat Kylo Ren. She's only evenly matched with him and able to hold her own. Personally, I would have had her hand get sliced off because honestly, that seems like a rite of passage for the main characters in Star Wars. Now, is this one of her many Mary Sue moments? Being able to go toe-to-toe with a guy who had training in both the light and dark side of the Force, being trained by Luke Skywalker and the Emperor himself. Well, people who defend the scene say that Kylo was weakened in two ways. One, he was fucking shot, and he was having conflicting emotions due to just murdering his father. But here's the thing, let's say you never used a sword before in your life, and you were going up against one of the greatest swordsman masters in the world. Yes, he does have a freshly made bullet wound, and he recently just killed his own mother, giving him conflicting emotions. Do you really think you would be able to hold your own against him? My answer is probably not. So to me, this scene is Mary Sue-ish, but not as quite as Mary Sue-ish as some people make it out to be. The Super Death Star is destroyed, our heroes are returned home, Leia walks right past Chewie and gives Rey a hug. Yeah, not even sequel defenders like this scene.
Oh, Rey, I'm so sorry a man you only knew for a day just died. Really, you should be the one comforting me since he was my ex-husband, but I guess not.
Hey, Leia, what about me? I knew him even longer than I knew you too.
Yeah, but I don't want to comfort you because you stink.
Can I at least get a medal later on?
Maybe.
Yay.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention C-3PO's arm is red. No, I don't know why. But now he has his gold arm back. Rey says goodbye to Finn and everyone else, and her and Chewie decide to go look for Luke. I don't know why they're trusting this random person they just met to find Luke, but whatever. Wouldn't Leia want to see him after all this time? We get to the moment where people went fucking nuts in the theater. Rey walks up to a hooded figure. He removes it, and it's Luke Skywalker himself. She holds out Luke's old lightsaber to him, and, well, that's where this movie ends. This is certainly a flawed movie, but so are all the other Star Wars movies. It made a little too many callbacks and references, and it was basically just a shot-for-shot remake of A New Hope. When this movie came out, I would say that about 90% of people liked it, including old Star Wars fans, and that includes me. I understand they had to play it safe so old fans would see something familiar and trust where this series was going. Pretty much everybody predicted that Han was going to die, but man, it would have been so cool to see Han, Luke, and Leia all fighting alongside one another. So unfortunately, we knew now we're never going to get a scene like that. But we still had high hopes for where this series was going. There were so many mysteries built up, so many directions it could go. And luckily, this movie was going to have a different director who wasn't just going to rehash the plot of The Empire Strikes Back. Little did we know, this next movie would be the movie that would split the fan base in two. While I do think this is a passable movie to start off a new Star Wars trilogy, I do not think it's a good sequel. There's an old saying, a good sequel jumps off from the original, continues the story, and builds upon characters and themes that were previously established. This is why Terminator 2 is considered the best sequel. It wasn't like all the other movies that just tried to, copy what it did. This is why Empire Strikes Back is considered a good sequel, why Toy Story 2 is considered a good sequel, and why almost every sequel that did this is considered a good sequel. While a bad sequel just wallows in the original, tries to copy what it did, and doesn't really bring anything new to the table. But sometimes people make a sequel that's a little too different. For example, Legend of Korra. It tried to reverse all the characters from their original counterparts. And another sequel that changes too much from the original is, well, this movie, Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now, some people do like this movie. They even say it's their favorite Star Wars movie of all time. Now, if you enjoy this movie, more power to ya, I guess. But I still disagree with all of those people. But before I get to reviewing this episode, I would like to go over a full breakdown on how they ruined Luke. And honestly, they would have had to only make one change that wouldn't have completely ruined his character for me. Luke takes the lightsaber from Rey and just throws it behind him. Well, this did make me laugh at first. I then realized, oh god, this movie is going to be full of Marvel humor, isn't it? Luke is not Rey's father, which I am so happy about. One, it would have been kind of dumb. And two, Luke being the father of this plank of wood would have ruined his character even more for me. And at first I thought Luke was trying to do what Yoda did. Act completely differently to how he normally does until he starts training his new apprentice. But no, he just clearly wants nothing to do with Rey. Don't know why he left a map to his location, but okay. Apparently there were some scenes that were shot of him training Rey, but none of them ended up in the movie. Aside from telling her to meditate and not go into the darkness, and that's the first thing she immediately does. So why did Kylo Ren, the nephew nephew of Luke Skywalker, turn against and destroy his new Jedi Order? Well, it's because Luke sensed the dark side within him and for a brief moment thought about killing his own nephew in his sleep. This, for understandable reasons, pisses off Kylo a lot, and he goes on a genocidal rampage. Now, the argument from people who like this movie usually goes something like this. Well, Luke isn't perfect, and Rian Johnson just wanted to show that he's flawed, and he just had a brief moment of weakness. Okay, let me explain why this argument is a complete load of bantha fodder. Luke's father, who he never got to know, killed his mentor, one of his best friends, and sliced off his hand. His father already completely turned to the dark side the moment he was born, and he was told by his mentor that there was no good left in him. Did he ever give up on his father? No. He was even willing to sacrifice his life just for one more chance to bring his father back to the light. But because he just senses a little bit of darkness in his nephew, he contemplates killing him in his sleep? Even Luke himself had moments that he thought he would fall to the dark side. Did he at least contemplate how his friend Han Solo and his sister Leia would feel about him murdering their son? Hey Han, hey Leia, I murdered your only son.
Luke, we trusted you with him. It's only been 5 weeks.
It's also not a unique idea to show Luke Skywalker is imperfect and had a moment of weakness. He had a moment of weakness against his own father. But that was understandable because his father was thinking of making his sister his apprentice. If Luke Skywalker took down and redeemed Darth Vader, he could easily do the same to his nephew. Or maybe I'm wrong because somehow his nephew defeats him even though he got the drop on him. Yeah, Kylo wakes up, sees Luke Skywalker, and just knocks him out, I guess. And also on top of that, takes out all the Jedis who were training there. There also might have been a few guards he took out as well. I mean, after all, there is still the remnants of the Empire still out there, along with maybe a few Hutts and other factions. Wouldn't one of the biggest priorities for the New Republic be to protect the new Jedis? If Kylo Ren was able to pull this off, then I guess we can also start calling him a Gary Stu. Even if Rian Johnson really wanted to take things in this direction, there are about a dozen better ways of handling this scene. For starters, maybe not have Luke try to kill his nephew in his sleep. Here's how I would handle it. Leia would be too busy working as a senator to spend time with her son. Han Solo, with more time on his hands, would try to do the best he could at first, but then due to the Hutts trying to expand their territory now that the Empire is no longer around, Han would have to leave to do his duties as a general. Kylo, who I'm just gonna call Ben Solo for this section, being a child who craves attention and has the Force, yeah, he would probably do some pretty messed up stuff. Maybe he would just force choke random people, maybe he would just play a few childish pranks. So Han and Leia decide to send him to Luke Skywalker's new Jedi school, so he can learn discipline. A life of a Jedi was not something they originally wanted for their son Ben, but hey, it's right now the best option, plus he can always drop out of it at any time. Luke would already have a few students, who by the way would have been really nice to see in these movies, and they would have been way ahead of Ben. He would have felt inferior compared to them, being frustrated that he didn't learn things sooner, and just desperately wanting to catch up with the others. Growing up as someone who had the Force, a son of a senator, and a general, he would definitely have a superiority complex. He learns about the dark side of the Force, and starts to get stronger faster. Luke learns about this and starts trying to push Kylo back to the light side. He makes some progress, but then he's called to the front lines to deal with a situation. He's away for a lot longer than he expected, and when he returns, Kylo has fully turned to the dark side, got a few of his students to join him, and slaughtered the rest. Luke blames himself, and because of this, he goes into hiding. But he decides to leave a map behind to his location, in case the galaxy ever needs him. Luke saying to Rey, "I've seen this raw power only once before. It didn't scare me then, but it does now," would have actually made sense. In the current context, all it tells him is, maybe I shouldn't try to kill this one in their sleep as well. While it is true that people do change as they get older, and I wouldn't want Luke to be exactly the same as he was in the original trilogy, like Han was, this is not in any way how he would logically grow up to be. Someone who thinks about killing his nephew in his sleep and abandons his friends along with the rest of the galaxy. Could you guys imagine Goku, Aang, or Naruto doing this? Well, I guess Goku did decide to stay dead for 7 years, but he had someone pick up the torch after him, and as soon as a new threat arrived, he came back to life to join the fight. I've been waiting for basically my whole life to see the continuation of Luke's journey, and this is the shit I get? And I can't even imagine how Mark Hamill feels about this. I love how he came up with the meme of calling this character Jake Skywalker.
Maybe he's Jake Skywalker. He's not my Luke Skywalker.
For the people who like what Disney and Rian Johnson did to Luke Skywalker and they think it actually made him into a better character, which does seem to be only a few people and that number does seem to be shrinking day by day, then you're allowed to have that opinion. I may not agree with it, but you're allowed to have it. And it is better if this character at least brings some people joy than no one joy. But I could look past all of this. I wouldn't be happy about it, but I could still look past it. But then Rian Johnson decides to kill Luke Skywalker's character off. Most of us who were fans of Luke didn't even see it coming. Luke Skywalker makes a Force projection of himself, which, to be fair, does seem like something the Force can do. I mean, if it can mind trick people, then the more advanced version would be making people think you were really there. And he does it from pretty far away, which is kind of badass. And somehow this kills him. Now, I guess you could make the argument that it required so much energy to use that it extinguished the rest of his life force. But when has the Force in any of the movies been established to be able to kill its own user if they push it too far? Yes, Luke clearly didn't have the power to take an X-Wing out of a swamp. He was struggling. But we never see any Jedi ever struggle when it comes to a mental technique. But even if you can't explain how this killed him, he's dead. He's not coming back in any more of the movies. Even if you like what they did to Luke Skywalker, did you really like that they ended his story right here? You guys could have gotten what you wanted, and us true fans could have also got what we wanted. In the next movie, he could have done something cool. They could have expanded on his story more. We could see what another director would do if they had a crack at it. But nope, his character is killed off, which is also pretty bad business-wise for Disney. Keep in mind, Disney Plus temporarily went down after the season 2 finale of Mandalorian released, just because Luke Skywalker was in it. So many people watched the episode all at once that the site couldn't handle it. A site, mind you, run by Disney. Like, I know for a fact that Disney is now regretting their decision of killing off Tony Stark in Captain America, but they at the very least got a lot of use out of them. I can't say the same for Luke Skywalker. The new characters they have to replace Luke are not exactly bringing in the money. Haha, hey Disney, how's that Rose Tico action figure selling for ya? So yeah, at least there's one good thing that came out of making Luke's character like this, and that's Disney shooting themselves in the foot. So fans of Luke Skywalker don't like what they did with him, and now Disney's losing a lot of money. No one won in the end. Oh yeah, one more thing. Not showing Luke's reaction to the news that his friend Han Solo died is completely undefensible. Anyways, that's all I have to say about Luke Skywalker. Let's get back to reviewing this episode. So the First Order is chasing after the Resistance. We see the U-bomber, and there's this Asian girl with a detonator, but then she drops it, but luckily she caught it. Poe does the last cool thing he'll ever do in any of these movies, and with his Top Gun Maverick skills, he manages to take out a huge Star Destroyer. Oh yeah, there's also some Marvel humor of him trolling one of the First Order generals. If I wanted Marvel humor, I would watch a Marvel movie, which are also trash now, thanks Disney. Snoke is really mad at his general, so he starts moving him around with the Force. By the way, I never understood how this works. Like, Luke got himself killed because he used a Force projection from really far away, but Snoke, from presumably the same distance away, can just move a guy around, and he doesn't seem to be straining himself at all. And there's also that time that Darth Vader somehow Force choked a guy through a TV screen.
Didn't know I could choke you through the TV, did you? But I can't.
Thanks to Poe's actions, they destroyed a really powerful ship of the First Order. Could they have gotten away if he didn't do what he did? Probably. But how the hell could he have known that they could have tracked them through hyperspace? And now that this new tracking technology has been introduced to the Star Wars universe, a lot of plots won't be able to be made because people can't just retreat by going into hyperspace. They'll immediately be tracked and followed. Like Rian Johnson, if you want to add new things to the Star Wars universe, that's fine. But can you at least think about the ramifications a little bit more? Snoke tells Kylo Ren, "I want you to join the battle, kill your mother, along with the men, but not just the men, but the women and children as well." I accidentally spit on my microphone when I was doing that voice. He also wants Kylo to ditch the helmet, and yeah, it's gone now. I don't know what's more pointless, him having the helmet in the first place, or them telling him to get rid of it forever. The First Order is chasing after the Resistance, but they can't shoot at them because they are out of range. And also the First Order can't go a little little bit faster. So they're just gonna follow them until they run out of fuel. I know this might sound a little weird of me, but I actually like this. I mean, after all, that's one of the main reasons as to why the Germans in World War II surrendered. They ran out of gas. Not always is a castle taken by the gate being knocked over and the troops pouring in. In fact, more often than not, the invading army would just surround them and wait for their food to run out. So yeah, this is something that could totally possibly happen in the Star Wars universe, and it's a surprisingly unique idea. But it's a little bit boring. Kylo Ren joins the battle. He's flying pretty good despite being blasted by Chewie. He lines up a shot to take his mother out, but he can't go through with it, even though he took out his father already. And they fire missiles, sending Princess Leia out into space. And yeah, this was not Disney's fault, and there's no way they could have predicted it, but shortly before this movie came out, Carrie Fisher, the actress for Princess Leia, unfortunately died, and seeing her corpse floating in space is just awkward and uncomfortable for everybody who saw this movie and knew about her death. But then it gets even more awkward with her frozen corpse coming back to life and force pulling herself back to the ship. And I'm not gonna lie, by no disrespect to the actress, I actually burst out laughing while I was in the theater, and I was not the only one. Sometimes things are just so tragically awkward that you just can't help but to laugh at the absurdity. Now, aside from things happening in the real world that made this scene really awkward, I'm 100% okay with Princess Leia being able to do this. Surviving the explosion makes perfect sense. Being sent into space actually nullifies most of the impact. I don't really see this as her first time using the Force. I'm sure Luke has trained her at least a little in between movies. It was a few decades. While we don't exactly know what would happen to a human if they were exposed to the vacuum of space, most seem to agree that it wouldn't kill you immediately. And if Force pushing is a thing, I'm sure Force pulling is as well. And yeah, sure, she might be really weak at this moment, but pulling herself through space sounds like it would be easier to do than if she was already on a planet. So yeah, if you hate this scene, that's fine. You can tell me why in the comments, but I'm okay with it. Plus, Princess Leia finally using the Force is something I've always wanted to see. Unfortunately, all of this causes Princess Leia to pass out, and someone else takes charge of the ship, one of the most hated characters in all of Star Wars, General Hodor. Okay, it's not Hodor from Game of Thrones, and if he was here, it would make no sense and would be stupid, but I would still prefer it over what we got. Admiral Holdo, a purple-haired middle-aged woman. And yes, a lot of people who hate this movie love to bring up how this character's appearance looks. Now, I do believe this is the first time we've seen a human in Star Wars with unnaturally colored dye hair. They couldn't make her like a unique alien or something. They had to make her look like a feminist Karen. Now, Rose is clearly the most hated character in this movie, but Admiral Holdo deserves it the most. Yes, Rose is an annoying character, and her story arc of explaining the evils of war to someone like Finn is stupid, but her character at the very least has some redeeming qualities. It's not like she was doing something that could have jeopardized everyone and then made out to be someone we should agree with, clap, and root for. I'm going to take a quick break from reviewing this episode so I can deconstruct and analyze what's wrong with her character. Basically, the Admiral tells none of them what she's planning. Why? Well, I guess it's because there's the possibility there might be a spy on board, which, by the way, there is none. But why would there be one? I'm pretty sure this ship is going to get destroyed. That spy isn't in the best position. And when could he have even gotten on board? Poe is clearly not the spy. He risked his life multiple times for the Resistance. He was even trusted with the piece of the map that led to Luke Skywalker. But if it has nothing to do with the possibility that there might be a spy on board, then this scene is, pretty pointless. Poe is understandably very suspicious of her, but she started it first by not trusting him and also saying that he's just another hotshot pilot. Yeah, she insulted him in front of the entire bridge crew. All he did was ask a simple question. While it is true Poe did disobey orders, he destroyed a very powerful gunship. How in the world could he have known that the First Order has the technology to track them through hyperspace? Poe is not questioning her orders, she's just not making them. I really don't care if she doesn't like Poe. She has been chosen as a leader during a time of crisis, and instead of putting her feelings aside, she argues with Poe like he's a teenager and she just got custody. Poe taking matters into his own hands and starting a mutiny is all her fault. None of this would have happened if she communicated. Now, apparently this was done as a plot twist. She may seem seem like she's against them. But nope, this was all part of her plan that she kept to herself because she didn't want to look like a hero. The film clearly paints her like she's the one in the right. Apparently, this was all a very important lesson to Poe, to never question orders even when there are none. And I know this might be a stretch, but I think she might actually be a self-insert for Kathleen Kennedy, the current person who's running Star Wars. I can imagine some people questioning her authority, telling her that her plans for Star Wars are kind of dumb. And maybe she was right all along. I mean, let's look at the state of Star Wars currently, and oh dear God! The Admiral doesn't give any trust and respect to her men, so why should they give any to her in return? The film can tell us as much as it wants that she was in the right all along, but what we see is the complete opposite.
She then sacrifices herself in order to save everyone else.
I will get to the Holdo maneuver later, but in the next movie it's actually revealed that she may have not tried to sacrifice herself and was actually trying to run away. Because in Star Wars Episode 9, oh god, I can't wait to get to it, Poe says that the chance of pulling off the Holdo maneuver is 1 in a million. So was she actually trying to run away? God, I hate this character. I hate this character so much. Now, I heard from some people that Admiral Akbar should have been the one to do the Holdo maneuver. And to be perfectly honest, they're not going to have someone with the name fucking Akbar do something like that. Her entire character and the entire plotline based around her wouldn't have been as bad if the movie didn't pick a side. Anyways, let's get back to reviewing this movie. Oh wait, oh god, I've talked about everything so far except for the Rose and Finn storyline. It's a really pointless story that goes on for about a quarter of the movie. Even people who like this movie do not like this side plot. The only defense I really ever hear for it is, the original trilogy also had a lot of scenes that ended up being pointless. One, those movies came out in the 70s and early 80s. People's attention spans were longer back then. And two, they were at least fun. Basically, they go down to a casino planet to find a codebreaker, then bring him on to the big First Order ship, so he can disable the device that allows the First Order to track people through light speed. Then leave that ship, get back to the Resistance ship, and blast off into warp speed. Wow, this plan sounds like it has the entire galactic debt of the Star Wars galaxy to one chance of working. People have reconstructed the stuff with Rey and Luke, the stuff with Holdo and Poe, and just a lot of other nonsensical things about this movie. But I really don't see that many people going over just how out there this plan is, and I really would like to know the writer's process when they came up with this plan. They hope to get down to the planet without getting shot down, which does work. Then they hope to find the codebreaker, a person they don't have any idea of identifying, but they get thrown in jail and luckily find him, so this part of their plan works. Then they somehow sneak aboard the Empire ship without getting spotted. I don't know how they pulled that off, but this part of their plan works. But then he betrays them and they get captured. Oh my god, this plan seems so foolproof. And even if he didn't betray them, they would have to, out of luck, get off that ship and back to their old one. I mean, the fact that their plan didn't fail sooner is actually quite astonishing. Now, the casino planet itself looks nice, but it's pretty boring. Coming across the codebreaker by accident because they got thrown into prison, holy shit, is that convenient. The social commentary about the 1% is just so awkwardly shoved in.
My sister and I grew up in a poor mining system. The First Order stripped our ore to finance their military, then shelled us to test their weapons. They took everything we had. And who do you think these people are? There's only one business in the galaxy that'll get you this rich.
Yeah.
Selling weapons to the First Order. I wish I could put my fist through this whole lousy, beautiful town.
And I also find it weird that this message is being preached to us by Disney, of all companies.
This is like George Orwell's A book, 1984.
The Codebreaker stutter is just so unnatural and annoying. It just comes and goes. The alien horses were pointless. The slave children were pointless. This scene is the most boring and surprisingly most nonsensical part of the movie. But most people don't talk about how nonsensical it is because, well, they always skip this part. And I can explain why. Because it only exists for one purpose. It's to give us very clunkily added in social commentary. Anyways, after they get captured, they're saved by BB-8. It's kind of weird to think that this droid has a body count, and is also more useful than Finn. We get our final confrontation between Finn and Captain... Hang on, let me look this up real quick. Oh, okay, that's her name. And Captain Phasma. Okay, I guess they're bitter enemies or something. Did anybody care about this? Like, when was the last time someone who actually liked this movie said, "Oh yeah, the rivalry between Finn and Captain Phasma was just such a cool and integral part of the story." And Finn doesn't even get the win against her. Holdo, after ramming the ship into them, causes her to fall to her death. I can't believe I'm saying this about modern Star Wars, but wow, what an underutilized female character. Like, she seems to take up the same role as Jango Fett and Boba Fett. Boba Fett was at least taken out in a funny way, and there was a chance he could come back, and he did. And honestly, out of all of them, Jango Fett was handled the best. That's another point for the prequel movies. Aren't you happy that we spent more time on the casino filler than our fight with Finn? Cause I'm not. Oh god, I just realized something. I meant to review this in chronological order, but the character analysis of Luke, Holdo, and summing up the bland casino plot, I don't have much left to review of this movie before the final confrontation. Okay, let me just quickly go through the small parts that I missed. Rey and Kylo can apparently communicate with one another through this rift in time and space or something because they're a Force didact. Whatever that is. You know, I have so far defended every unique Force power these movies have introduced, but this ability is just way too off of what the Force can normally do, and it exists purely for plot convenience. Rey hears Luke's side of the story of what happened, but through this rift, she can also hear Kylo's side of events. I would be totally fine if they talked to one another telepathically, but they can physically move objects to one another in the next movie. This is just fucking stupid. There's this one pretty cool scene where Rey goes to the dark side of the island, and she sees infinite mirror versions of herself. Then she sees two figures that look to be her parents. They fuse into one, and it's her. Oh my god, what could this mean? Well, she's the child of a clone of Palpatine. Huh? Yep, but Poe did learn a lesson from Admiral Holdo, and decides to not look like a hero by not sacrificing himself. Wait, what? That's exactly what she did 5 minutes ago! So it's okay for her to sacrifice herself, but not him? He calls a retreat, but Finn isn't running. It's time to complete his story arc of no longer being a coward and facing danger head on. Even though he learned that in the last movie, but whatever. And then, right before he does, Rose pushes him out of the way. And this is why so many people hate this character. Okay, let's break this scene down. First of all, Finn was going at full speed and going in one direction the full time. How could she have caught up with him, turned, and knocked him out of the way?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
We see him still moving forward and all the other ships retreating. Was she just not in the camera view? Did she also turn around and just came back again and caught up with him somehow? Did he slow down? I don't know. It makes no logical sense. But of course, that's not even close to the biggest problem. Her knocking him out of the way is dooming everyone. That laser is going to be fired. They're going to be executed. And the First Order with their small army will take over the galaxy. Again, why is it okay for Holdo to sacrifice herself but not Finn? They were almost executed just a moment ago. Now they're right in front of the First Order. How are they going to get back? Oh, they just do. What? They didn't have their ships anymore. Did they just sprint all the way back and avoid all those lasers? Did they get into a trench or something? It doesn't seem like there's a trench around them. Rose doing this really injured her and Finn, so there was a chance she could have killed them both. At the very least, one of them. I mean, after all, she did pass out. So this makes her chances of getting back even less likely. So somehow Finn, while covered in cuts and bruises, along with a few possible broken bones, just put Rose on his back and made it all the way to the base, while there was an army right behind him, shooting at him the whole way. Oh my god, Finn might actually be the most powerful character in all of Star Wars. Or maybe this scene is just stupid and makes no sense. Yeah, it's probably that. But I'm sure this nonsensical scene just had to be added in the script so it could say something important. Rose tells Finn that they need to fight for what they love and not fight against what they hate. Then she She kisses him without his consent, by the way, so it's sexual assault, and passes out. Did they have that kind of relationship? Did I miss something? This scene is by far the worst part in the entire movie. I do not care if it was for love. What Rose did could have gotten the entire Resistance, herself, and Finn killed. So to recap, this scene makes Rose the worst character in all of Star Wars. It's full of plot holes. It goes against exactly what Holdo did, even though they were saying this is what Holdo wanted for some reason. And most importantly, it took away Finn's chance to become one of the greatest Star Wars characters. Luckily for the Resistance, Luke shows up to fix everything. And we at long last get at least one cool moment with him after waiting several years. He gives Leia some dice, which these movies treat like it's supposed to be super important or something. They were just a prop on the Millennium Falcon. Most hardcore fans didn't even know what they were at first, so how would the normies know? He kisses his sister, but at least it's not on the mouth this time. He comes outside and Kylo orders all his men to fire upon him, but it doesn't do any damage at all. Now we do learn that this is an illusion later on, but at the moment I thought Luke was just super powerful like he was in the comics and became one with the Force or something. And also, is it just me, or does this feel like something from Dragon Ball Z? A bunch of lasers get fired at a guy, creating a cloud of smoke. The guy who fired the lasers thinks his opponent is dead, but then he either comes out of the cloud of smoke, or the cloud dissipates, and it's revealed that he's perfectly fine. Kylo Ren, stupidly by the way, challenges Luke to a duel. Bro, you just saw what happened after he got hit by a bunch of lasers. What chance do you stand against him? He takes a few swings, but Luke is dodging them. Haha, you can't hit me, you can't hit me. But then he feels bad for Kylo, so he lets him get a free hit. But it turns out it's just an illusion. Okay, this movie was shit, but at least the old director's coming back, and he's gonna make Luke do some cool shit, and okay, he's dead. Rey helps the Resistance escape by moving a whole bunch of boulders. Wow, pretty impressive for her first time using the Force to move something. I mean, Luke couldn't even take an X-Wing out of a swamp with some training, and she had none of it. The Resistance finally gets aboard a ship, Leia finally hugs Chewie, and then they fly off. Oh yeah, apparently one of the slave children can use the Force. Oh my god, how can they possibly wrap up the story with just one more movie? The director is completely written into a corner. I have no idea why anyone at all likes this movie, let alone say it's their favorite Star Wars movie, because so far, this is the worst one, by far. But believe it or not, the next one is actually somehow even worse. Not even people who like Last Jedi defend it. The first movie, about 90% of people liked it when it came out. This one, about 50-50. But the last one, I have seriously not met a single person who actually likes it. This was the only one of the three that I decided not to see in theaters, and I didn't see it until way after it came out. Like, even the advertising for this movie made me know it was going to be bad. Palpatine is back. He somehow survived after exploding twice. I guess all Jar Jar Abrams knows how to do is milk our nostalgia, and that's it. Also, thanks to the last director killing off Snoke, and him wanting to redeem Kylo Ren, I guess he just had to add him back in. Now in the comics, the Emperor did come back to life, but it was handled way better. Instead of his physical body still being intact somehow, he used a high-level Sith Force ability to reincarnate himself into a clone body. I mean, after all, the dark side of the Force can lead to abilities that some may find unnatural. It starts with Kylo Ren fighting on some random planet and he moonwalk stabs a guy, kind of weird, and he gets a Sith holocron, something that's in the TV show and the comics, but never has shown up in a movie until now. He uses it to get to this planet that has chaotic weather. Yeah, apparently this planet is quite hidden and difficult to get to, and it's a major plot point throughout the whole story, until all of a sudden it's not difficult to find or get to. Kylo Ren finds out that Snoke was created by Emperor Palpatine. Oh my god! Let's never bring up this again! And he explains how he survived being thrown down several stories, exploding, then exploding again in a moon-sized space station, in the vacuum of space. He simply says, I survived, and that's it. Okay, Star Wars has never been exactly the most intellectual story ever made, and there are a lot of parts that are just dumb, but this single-handedly might be the most stupid thing in all of Star Wars. Suspension of disbelief can only take me so far. before. It's like J.J. Abrams thought to himself,
People seem to think that Rian Johnson made the most stupid scene in all of Star Wars, with that scene of Rose stopping Finn from sacrificing himself. But I will make an even stupider scene in the very first part of the movie.
And now we know that death is meaningless in this series because Disney can just bring anyone back to life that they want. Like Han Solo, Luke, Mace Windu. Okay, actually, I would be totally fine if Disney brought him back. I mean, we didn't see him technically die, and Jedis have survived falls like this before. Oh no, wait, actually, never mind. They would find a way to completely ruin his character. And do we even know for sure if the Emperor is actually dead at the end? He survived worse than this. And he's not the only thing that's back. In the last movie, Anakin and Luke's lightsaber was destroyed, ripped in half by Kylo Ren and Rey, along with Kylo's helmet, but they're now both back. J.J. Abrams is like, Kylo Ren has this helmet that adds nothing to his character, but it looks cool. And Rian Johnson is like, no, that helmet is now destroyed. It's gone forever. And J.J. Abrams just says, lol, no, I made him fix it. It's back. Who cares? It's just a helmet. That helmet looks pretty destroyed, and it wasn't a ship that got hit by the Holdo maneuver. Do ship explosions just repair things or something? Kylo asks Palpatine what he can give him, and Palpatine says, everything. He does the most powerful Force move we have seen in any of the Star Wars movies, and yes, that does include the Samurai Jack ones. Force lifting up a whole fleet of Star Destroyers that were for some reason buried beneath the ice. Yeah, these movies are all about style over substance, or basic logic. Where did these ships come from? Was the Emperor building them? Were they from his old Empire fleet and he just put them under the ice to be frozen so he could use them for later? Why would he do that, and why wouldn't he use them sooner? It's just, oh yeah, I forgot. The director of this movie never likes to give answers. Oh yeah, and apparently these ships' shields don't work in the atmosphere. What? Where in Star Wars canon was that ever established? Get them out of the atmosphere and put them into space, now. Oh yeah, now I get it. This plot point only exists so our heroes can win. So you know how the First Order is called the First Order, and there was also Order 66 that wiped out almost all of the Jedi? Well, this is Palpatine's final order. I mean, if you know anything about Star Wars canon, this makes no sense. So before Order 66, Palpatine had the First Order, which was to create another group in case he failed, and the final order was to either build or freeze all these Star Destroyers underneath the ice? This is just dumb. So then we cut to Finn, Poe, and Chewie, who are collecting information from a spy hidden within the First Order.
Golly gee, I wonder who it could be. It can't be Captain Phasma, she's dead. It can't be Finn, cause he's on their side now. So I just have no idea. It couldn't be the only actual person in the Force Order that we actually know, could it? Oh my god, it is!
Yeah, I have no idea why they try to treat this like a plot twist. You know, that's a pretty high-ranking officer that you got for a spy there. Aside from the Force users, I think he has the highest rank. There's an action scene between the Millennium Falcon and some TIE fighters. There's this one cool visual of an iceberg in space, and there's a scene that implies that Rey might actually be a better pilot than Poe. Chewie says something and Poe says, yeah, well, Rey's not here, implying if Rey was here, she could fly the ship better. Keep in mind, this is only implying things, not outright stating them. But at the very least, finally, at long last, we see Rey doing some training. We see her floating while meditating in midair. She's using the lightsaber, running, jumping, doing some cool parkour. Oh my god, this is just so beautiful. Why couldn't we get this until now? Oh yeah, so Carrie Fisher is dead, but she's still in this movie. And the way they have her in this movie is just awkward to say the least. They use a few pre-existing clips from the last two movies that they didn't end up using until now. There's some CGI, just the back of her head showing as a voice imitator gives the line, and every other character's dialogue is based around, well, what she already had recorded. I'll give the film credit for one thing, this is definitely one of the most strangest things I've ever seen in any movie. It's like that movie Weekend at Bernie's, if they were trying to use Bernie as an actor, and it was also done in real life. Yeah, this is such an awkward workaround when they could have just, I don't know, had her die in the last movie. She died before it came out, they could have just delayed it, changed a few scenes, and had Luke survive instead of her. Yes, it is extremely tragic that she died, but having her character be killed off would have been, better than this. But no, of course not, we have to have the woman outlive the two men. Rey, Finn, and Poe meet up and they act like they're super good friends, even though Rey didn't meet Poe until the end of the last movie. It's not like they're friends who've known each other for a long time or anything. Like sure, episode 8 feels like a sequel to episode 7, but episode 9 does not feel like a sequel to episode 8. I wonder how differently Star Wars Wars would have been if both directors just directed their own sequel trilogies. And also, Rey didn't spend that much time with Finn. They knew each other for like a day. They spent the entire last movie being separated from one another so we could focus on Finn's relationship with, Rose. Yeah, it's not J.J. Abrams' fault for things being like this. It's Rian Johnson's. But just because Rian Johnson f***ed up doesn't mean you can just ignore the damage he did and continue on like you did the second movie. The Resistance now knows that Emperor Palpatine is back. One of them says that's impossible, and I agree. And some guy says dark science, cloning, secrets only the Sith knew, when no, there's an entire war based around clones. Maybe the guy already knew this and he was just throwing out random theories. But I wouldn't be surprised with how dumb this movie is if a character actually believed that cloning was a secret that only the Sith knew about. The Resistance fully accepts this information, even though it came from a guy in the First Order. He could be lying to you. You know that, right? Rey, Poe, Finn, Chewie, and C-3PO are assembled as a team so they can find a MacGuffin that will lead them to Exegol, the planet that Palpatine is on. But Rose is not coming, and to be honest, J.J. Abrams, good call. They go to the desert planet of Pasana, and oh my god, another desert planet! This is the third one!
JJ, you don't have to make every unique planet a desert planet. Literally, you could have picked any other biome.
Anyways, an alien creature gives Rey a necklace. They ask her for her family name, and she tells it, I have no family name. Now, why was Rey given a necklace? Well, it's because it's convenient to the plot, of course. Now, I would have been totally okay if Rey and Kylo in the last movie were talking to each other and physically seeing one another. If force projection and force mind abilities are a thing, then it sounds possible. But they're not doing that. They're creating like a rift in time and space or something, and they can physically interact with each other and teleport items through this rift. Yep, Rey and Kylo hop into their private Force Discord server, and Kylo is able to physically get the necklace. Then he tracks down its planet of origin, and that's how he's able to find them. Like, honestly, if he just randomly came across them, that would have actually been better than this shit. Rey is literally only given something because it's super convenient for the plot, as nonsensical as it is. The First Order is stationed here. They could have just easily had one of them come across Rey, report it, and Kylo just tells them to attack. Sometimes a simple plot is better than an idiotic one. And guess what? A stormtrooper actually does come across them and report their location. But then he's shot in the face. No one in the crowd seems to react to this. I guess they're used to seeing people get shot. It turns out that the man who shot the clone trooper is Lando Calrissian. Wow, what are the chances? These movies really make the Star Wars galaxy seem more like a neighborhood. He gives them some information of where a Sith artifact might be found. And then he's gone. Our heroes steal a speeder, but then they're pursued by stormtroopers, who also have speeders that actually use wheels. And if you look into this, apparently they have wheels so they can go over rough terrain. Wow, it's almost like hover cars can do that even better by not even touching the terrain. But the stormtroopers have a new trick up their sleeve. They fly now!
They fly now! They fly now! They fly now!
And yes, that is the worst forced meme that I've ever heard in my life. They crash and land in some quicksand. Luckily, it was already established that Rey can levitate with the Force, and she can lift up a whole bunch of boulders, so only a few people shouldn't be an issue. Right? Right? Yeah, she doesn't do any of that, they just fall into the quicksand. Okay, so do you guys remember when I did that full review of She-Hulk? How the writers would add things to the plot, only to forget about them a few episodes later? Well, this is even worse because they're forgetting about stuff they established only a few minutes ago. And yes, you did hear me right, only a few minutes ago. I know it feels like the movie may have already reached the halfway point, but no, we're only a few minutes in. Yeah, the pacing is extremely fast. But I can actually answer why Rey didn't use the Force to get them out of this. It's because it's convenient for the plot to happen. After falling through the quicksand, they end up in a cave. Apparently, this is magic sand that you can fall through, but is also strong enough to create the roof of a cave. It's pretty convenient that out of all the quicksand pits on this planet, they just so happen to sink through the perfect one. By the way, if it was just normal quicksand, would they be dead by now? God, all the convenient things that are happening for the plot to move forward are just so coarse, rough, irritating, and they're just everywhere. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Finn, with the belief that he's gonna die, says, Rey, there's something I never told you, before he's cut off. What was he gonna say? Well, it's a good question for another time.
A good question for another time.
Yeah, it never gets answered in this movie. Some people thought he was gonna say, "I love you," as cheesy as that is. And I believe it was later confirmed that he was Force sensitive. Wow, those would have been awkward last words.
Oh, J.J. Abrams, this is the last movie. You gotta wrap up all the plot. Got it. You want me to add more mystery boxes, right? Oh god, why did we fire Lucas?
They find the corpse of a Sith, which has a dagger which will lead to the location of the MacGuffin. Hey, assassin, I want to hire you. Here's a dagger in case you're killed so they can find my location. Apparently, C-3PO has the ability to read the dagger, but it goes against his programming to translate it to them. Okay, so let me get this straight. Anakin Skywalker built a droid that can read the ancient Sith language, but he also programmed it to not translate it for people? Seems like it would just been easier not to program the Sith language into him in the first place, but whatever. There's a big snake in the cave with them, but Rey senses that it's injured and manages to heal it. Okay, now, Force healing is common in the video games, but in the movies, it has never shown up until now. So let me get this straight. Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, the most powerful Jedi ever born with a midichlorian count of over 9,000, someone who has been trained by both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Emperor Palpatine in both the light and dark side of the Force, who sacrificed multiple people, including parts of his own body, spent at least 2 decades trying to find a Force ability that can heal people, stopping them from dying, the thing he desired most and never discovered. Rey can just do it because f*** you. You cannot be serious. This whole story is just a bad fan fiction, isn't it? If there's anyone who is watching this that believes that Rey is not a Mary Sue, and they have watched the video from the beginning till now, please explain to me how she isn't. Oh yeah, and the snake knocks down a hole for them so they can escape. Haha, I always thought there was a whole lot of contrivances in this movie, but this one is a literal hole. Can we please have something that can move the plot forward that isn't contrived? So they find the dead Sith's ship and it's just sitting there. No one has done anything with it or to it, even though it's been sitting there long enough for its owner to compose into a pile of bones. They press a few buttons on the ship and they're ready to leave. But not just yet, because Rey has to walk into the desert. Yeah, that's it. Full stop. She just walks into the desert for no reason. Kylo Ren shows up in his ship and he's approaching her fast. He's about to hit Rey, but she jumps over him just in time. Whoa, this looks so cool! Bro, if you were trying to kill her, all she has is a melee weapon. Just shoot her from a safe distance.
But George mentioned that he doesn't want to kill Rey. He just wants to find her and get her to join the dark side.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. When I try not to kill people, I ram my ship into them. So why does this scene exist? Well, it's probably because it looks cool. And that's it. Rey manages to slice it with her lightsaber, causing it to crash violently. It's tumbling, and then it explodes. And shockingly, Kylo Ren is perfectly fine. Okay, you know what? It's canon now. Being on the inside of a ship when it explodes heals you. It healed Poe, it healed the Emperor, it fixed Kylo Ren's helmet, and of course this latest explosion probably healed him as well. I mean, it's a weird thing to add to the Star Wars mythos, but you do you, I guess. Chewie gets captured and he's put on a ship that is leaving. Rey uses the Force to hold it back. Oh my god, look at the size of that ship. The most impressive thing Luke ever did was move an X-Wing. But then Kylo Ren also starts using the Force to try to get the ship away from Rey. Finn does his best to stand there and do nothing. I don't know why he doesn't just grab a blaster and shoot him. But during the Force tug of war, Rey accidentally shoots lightning out of her fingers and blows up the ship. Yep, with no training and by complete accident, Rey just performed one of the highest level dark side moves. If you're an Avatar fan, to put this in perspective, this would be like if a firebender who had no training just suddenly shot lightning out of his fingertips. Now, have Force sensitives with no training accidentally used the Force before? Yes, but never to this level. But don't worry, I'm sure Chewie will be fine. So far, no one has been killed by a ship exploding around them. Holy he is actually okay. I was just making a joke. Okay, to be fair, he wasn't on that ship. He was actually on an identical ship that they apparently switched Chewie to off screen. Yeah, this is just a cheap fake out death. But I love how the movie makes it out to be that if Chewie was on that ship and it blew up, he would have been dead. Why? Something like that hasn't killed anyone so far. So our main characters don't have the dagger anymore. But luckily, C-3PO remembers what it says. So they take him to Babu Frick. Yeah, this was one of the many workshopped names for Boba Fett. Like, have you ever noticed that in Star Wars the name Starkiller gets thrown around a lot? Like Starkiller Base, Bendak Starkiller from Knights of the Old Republic. It was the name of Darth Vader's secret Stormtrooper apprentice from The Force Unleashed, and there's plenty more examples out there. Now you might be wondering, why is it such a common name in Star Wars? Well, that's because Luke Skywalker's original last name was actually Starkiller. I think at one point he was also supposed to be the wise old mentor, and Anakin Skywalker would have been his apprentice. Now why am I telling you this? Well, it's because I want to break from this review. God, Babu Frick is such a stupid name. You know, sometimes characters' names aren't used and they're workshopped because the original sounded dumb. Could you imagine if this was Boba Fett's original name? No one would take that guy seriously. And before you say, oh come on, you just got used to his current name. His current name didn't end with Frick. Anyways, Babu freaking Fricks is a droid smith who can allow C-3PO to read out the dagger. But unfortunately, by doing this, they will wipe out C-3PO's memory. So not quite a character's death, but close enough to it. And just like with Chewie, it's another fake out, because R2 backed up his memory. We just had one of these, why do 2 in a row? And by the way, this is just so contrived. Ooh, I can't read out the ancient evil language or I'll lose my memory. Once again, this story just sounds like it's bad fanfiction. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that anything even close to this has ever happened in the extended Star Wars universe. And of course, let's not forget about the scene that made so many Star Wars fans' blood boil. Before C-3PO's memory is erased, he says, taking one last look at my friends. This line was in the trailer, and I remember a whole bunch of people saying, he better be looking at a picture when he says this. But no, he's looking at Rey, Finn, and, Poe! Yeah, that's it. Now obviously, he's not saying that Luke, Han, Chewie, and the others aren't his true friends. However, he barely knows these people. If he got to know them, this would be a touching scene, but none of this was built up. Once again, everything is style over substance. It's like Rian Johnson just wants all these epic and emotional scenes without putting in the work to have them make sense. Also, a thought just crossed my mind. Han Solo was already an established character who we grew to love, but let's just say in The Force Awakens, we replace Han Solo and everything he did with a unique character. Would you actually care at all if he died? In this movie, Rian Johnson doesn't have just one, but 2 fake-out deaths. One with Chewie and one with C-3PO. Do you think he actually wanted to kill off these characters and then Disney stepped in and said, no, we need them to make more money? Yeah, he's just taking characters he didn't make, then killing them off so he can have an emotional moment. My god, this guy is a complete hack. Mickey, serious question, why did you hire this guy? It was either him or M. Night Shyamalan. Oh, now I get it. Yeah, that's a good call. Anyways, C-3PO reveals that the MacGuffin is on a moon of Endor. Right before they head out, Kylo's ship shows up. Rey senses that Chewie is alive on there, so they decide to put their mission of saving the galaxy on hold to save one guy. Isn't it amazing that Rey can sense Chewie when he's miles away, but she couldn't sense him when he was just a couple dozen feet away when she thought she killed him? But how are they going to get through the blockade? Well, the character Bliss, I'm sorry I didn't go over her, this movie moves way too fast. She has a First Order Captain's Medallion that will allow them to go right through. Why would something like this work? It could be a fake, or something they got off a dead soldier. Or, oh yeah, now I know, it's for plot convenience. Oh yeah, there's something I forgot to mention. So do you remember the Knights of Ren? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, because they only showed up in one brief scene. Well, they're following our heroes. Yeah, that's basically it. Maybe they're waiting for the right time to strike, but they're certainly following them, that's for sure. Okay, so they managed to get aboard the ship. Remember when Han and Luke first went into the Death Star? They had to hide beneath the floor. Then they knocked out 2 stormtrooper guards, took their armor, and snuck around the base. I wonder if they're gonna do that in this movie. Oh, there's 2 stormtroopers walking right towards the ship, and Rey just shot them. And now the entire hangar is alerted to their presence. On the one hand, I am proud of J.J. Abrams for not just ripping off someone else's plot. On the other hand, the thing he used to replace it is stupid and nonsensical. Do you guys think J.J. Abrams only finished school and got the job as a director because he copied others' homework? I ask because every time he comes up with an original idea, it seems stupid. Anyways, Rey abandons the other 2 because she can sense the Sith dagger. Okay, C-3PO already has it translated, so why do you need it? Well, believe it or not, it's somehow important. And for those of you who have never seen this movie, and this is the first review you have heard of it, get ready because it leads to the dumbest, most contrived, most nonsensical scene in all of Star Wars. Like trust me, out of everything I've said in this video, it's the number one. Rey uses a Force mind trick to get 2 stormtroopers to tell them where Chewie is. No, I'm not calling this a Mary Sue moment because she's done this before. Poe and Finn shoot out all the cameras. I guess they do this so they won't alert security, even though security is already looking for them considering what they did in the hangar. And as someone who has worked security and has watched camera feed like this would actually make things even more noticeable, because the camera feed would say something like connection lost or something. It's hard to tell what's happening on all these different screens, but the one that stops showing the video and is just a solid color with some text on it, all you would have to do is rewind the recording a little bit and then tell everybody on the intercoms, yeah, they're right there on floor 8B, go get them. Anyway, speaking of the ship in the hangar, General Pride goes to see it personally. I have no idea why a general would do this instead of just sending one of his own troops. He inquires whose ship it is. I can just picture one of the stormtroopers telling him, "Aw, General, isn't it obvious? It's just some random person who showed us a medal." Surprisingly, this alerts security. No, I'm not saying it's surprising that a general seeing a ship he doesn't recognize alerts security, but it's surprising that a shootout in the hangar bay and security cameras being destroyed didn't alert security. So Han and Poe have to shoot down stormtroopers. A lot of them just stand there and get shot, and they can't even shoot them while they're in a hallway. Yeah, I know they were also bad shots in New Hope, but that's because they were trying to let them escape. These guys aren't, and from what I've researched, the First Order are supposed to be the best of the Empire. How do they suck so much? Poe gets shot in the arm, and they're captured. Anyways, Rey finds the dagger and Chewie's bow. They're not locked down or anything, they're just there in the open. Kylo Ren calls Rey on Discord, and despite being presumably light years from one another, they're able to have a lightsaber duel. Darth Vader's helmet is knocked over, it lands where Kylo Ren is, so now he knows her location. Now, could you take out this weird force rift through time and space and still have the plot be exactly the same? Yes! Because just like last time this happened with the necklace, one of his many guards could just call him and tell him her location. It feels like they added this thing in last minute. I mean, there's guards everywhere on this ship. Did not one of them call Kylo? Also, Kylo clearly saw her wielding the Sith dagger, so the helmet didn't even need to exist for him to find her location. Kylo Ren also reveals to Rey that while her parents are indeed nobody, there is more to her lineage. Poe, Finn, and Chewie are about to be executed and they crack a joke. God, I hate Marvel humor so much. Now granted, they're extremely lucky to be executed. You might be wondering, wait, how is that lucky? It's lucky because they don't even deserve this chance. They were gunning down stormtroopers. They should have been shot dead instead of captured and then shot dead a little bit later. But they are saved by who?
I am the spy.
Hux! You what? Why would Hux do that? Wait a minute, he was the spy all along? The only other person in the Empire we knew actually turned out to be the spy? Wow, what a twist! Okay, I was wrong. Maybe M. Night Shyamalan really did work on this movie. It's pretty lucky for them that right before they were executed, they were saved by their one ally in the First Order, who just so happened to be at the right place in the right time. Nah, I'm joking. This wasn't lucky for them. Honestly, this is just normal stuff to them at this point. It actually made perfect sense for them to crack a joke right before their execution. They've already become self-aware. So many conveniently lucky things have happened to them that they know they're not in danger. But why would someone like him, who is loyal to the cause, with a very important position that he is risking, be a spy for them? Well, it's because he hates Kylo. And that's it. In the last movie, he was thinking about killing Kylo while he was knocked out, but he woke up before he had the chance. Was that really the only attempt he took? I'm pretty sure with how crazy Kylo is, he's gonna get himself killed eventually. This just seems like a huge unnecessary risk to his position. Even if his plan does succeed and Kylo Ren is killed, if it's ever found out that he did this, that could make him lose his position. And also, the whole plan is gonna weaken the First Order. Like, why is this in this movie? Oh yeah, because it's convenient for the plot. Okay, so Kylo Ren comes aboard the ship, and he finally reveals something to Rey about her lineage. So remember when the first movie came out, we thought that Rey was the daughter of Luke Skywalker, who just had her memories erased. Or maybe she was the granddaughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi, or at least she had to be related to some Star Wars character. And then Rian Johnson comes in to direct and says no, her parents were no one important. Now whether she's related to one of the main characters or isn't, I don't care. Now personally, I do think there could have been a nice compromise between
between the people who want their main character to be related to someone powerful and to the people who don't. It's quite simple actually, just have Rey be related to someone powerful and have Finn discover he has the Force. But he's the one who's not related to anyone important. It's clear that Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams wanted this story to go in two completely different directions. But Rian was the one who had the chance to make the call. And now Abrams is back to reverse everything he wanted to do. It turns out that Rey is related to Emperor Palpatine himself. Now, to be fair, this probably did make Rian Johnson very upset. Yeah, Ryan, I bet it really sucks to have something that you love be twisted until it's unrecognizable. Ha! Now you know how it feels! I love it when Kylo says, I didn't lie to you, your parents were nobodies. No, one of them was the child of Emperor Goddamn Palpatine. Hey, grandchild of the Queen of England, your parents were nobodies, but your grandmother was the Queen. Now, of course, this raises a lot of questions, like, who did it with Palpatine? I guess you could say that Palpatine did it. Like, yeah, I'm sure at some point in his life, Palpatine parked his Star Destroyer into a woman's hangar bay, and she helped him turn his lightsaber on. But here's the thing, Palpatine looked old enough to be a grandfather when Anakin was just a little boy, and Kylo is Anakin's grandfather, so how does this work? Well, a lot of people did point that out. So it was later retconned that it's not actually Palpatine's biological son, but a clone of himself, and Rey's the daughter of that clone. At the very least, this somewhat explains why Rey is so powerful in the Force, but only somewhat. Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams are like children. They're just playing tug of war with this trilogy like Rey and Kylo played tug of war with that ship. You can say whatever you want about the prequel trilogy, but at least it had a coherent story between all three of them. It turns out the reason why Kylo and Rey can call one another on Discord is because they're a Force dyad, two that are actually one. Combined, they should be able to defeat Palpatine. So once again, he makes a request for her to join him, but Rey once again puts him in the friend zone. She jumps out of the hangar onto the Millennium Falcon and they blast off. They escape into hyperspace and for some reason they aren't followed. No, I don't know why. Now since General Hux already did the thing that moves the plot forward, J.J. Abrams has no more use for him, so General Pry just kills him. Yeah, I think J.J. Abrams was just not happy with what Rian Johnson did to this character, making them into a joke villain. So now he has this new character that fills the exact same old role, used Hux as plot convenience, and now he's dead. Okay, we finally get to that moment with the dagger. Remember that one I told you to remember? Well, here's the oh so glorious payoff. They come across the remains of the second Death Star. Yeah, that thing. Remember how big the explosion was? Well, apparently there are still parts of it. It wasn't completely atomized. And it also apparently survived entry into the atmosphere of this planet. And if you want to say that it's made out of Beskar or something, which I don't believe it is, but it would have left a giant crater. And we're not even at the stupid part yet. Now they can't just search the entire wreckage for one MacGuffin. That would take forever. So how are they going to find the right place to look? Okay, so Rey, at the position she's standing in, uses the edges on the dagger and lines it up with the wreckage of the space station. Then she pulls out this, I don't know, ruler attachment on the handle, and it points to where the MacGuffin is on the ship. Wow, where to even begin with how nonsensical this is? So if Rey landed at any other place on the planet, she wouldn't be able to pull this off. Hell, if Rey wasn't standing at this exact angle, this wouldn't work. How did she even know to do this? How has the wreckage not shifted after all this time? Keep in mind, the guy who had this dagger killed her father when she was a child, and she's like, I don't know, 20-something? At the very least, it's been a decade or two. And let's not forget, they were only able to find this dagger by luckily sinking into quicksand and then coming across it. Oh my god. Wow, who thought this was a good idea? I'm just picturing J.J. Abrams with a big smile on his face when this scene was in theaters. He probably thought he was so clever. Okay, so first of all, the fact that this map was even made in the first place sounds like it would require more effort than just remembering what room the MacGuffin is in. With how many things had to go perfectly right in Rey's favor for this to actually work? Well, let me put it this way. According to quantum mechanics, every now and then a molecule molecule will change into a different molecule. So there is an inquantifiable small chance that a group of molecules that are all next to each other will change at the same time. Let's say you were spinning a penny and all the atoms it was made of started changing all at the same time, turning what was a penny into a chocolate. Now, while it is possible for a penny to turn into a chocolate, it is, however, impossible for a chocolate to turn into a penny. But explaining all of that would be a bit too off topic. Now, why am I bringing quantum mechanics into this? Well, I believe that the chances of a penny suddenly transforming into a chocolate is more likely to happen than Rey actually doing this. Yeah, I'm gonna say it right now. If the plot about Rey finding the dagger, losing it, then finding it again, the wreckage actually existing in the first place, it still being there after over a decade, Rey landing in the exact perfect location of the planet, and knowing to do this in the first place. If this was all replaced with Rey suddenly flipping a coin and it landing in her hand as a chocolate, I would say that this movie was actually more logical. So they can now go get the MacGuffin, right? Well, no, because Rule 63 Finn, and no, I'm not just saying that because she's black. She's also an ex-stormtrooper, and she's completely useless to the story. But let's be honest here, because she doesn't have dangly bits, she's probably better than him in every single way. She tells them that they can't go to the wreckage right now because the waves are really strong, but maybe it will be a little bit more calm tomorrow. At least they have the Falcon, so they can take that over the waves, right? No, because the landing gear are damaged.
Ow.
Oh no! If only the Millennium Falcon could float in midair or something! Oh wait! It can!
Poe could just drop off Rey and she could go get the MacGuffin. They stupidly all agree to wait. Wow, these are the guys the galaxy is depending on. I'm just joking, of course. Rey boats over there by herself. Yep, the residents of this planet who have far more experience boating than she does. Considering she's from a desert planet, she's already better at it on her first try than them.
Guys, Rey totally isn't a Mary Sue. People who say that are just sexist.
Rey enters the Emperor's throne room. Of course, it's still intact. But to be fair, it does make sense for a Sith artifact to be in this room in particular. She's attacked by a dark side version of herself from the trailer. We knew from the trailer that this was going to be a fake out, and it is. This scene is purely in here just for trailer fodder. I mean, I guess it's supposed to represent her fear of falling to the dark side, but, does anybody remotely think that's going to happen? Her personality is more bland than a battle droid. Something like that is way too interesting. Not only did they put this in the trailer, but they put it at the end of the trailer, like it's the big reveal. And yes, that is legitimately the worst design for a lightsaber yet. Okay, granted, the Inquisitors flying with their lightsabers from Star Wars Rebels is even worse, but the design for it is actually incredibly smart. They just do something stupid with it. And finally, after all this time, Rey gets the MacGuffin. Then Kylo Ren shows up and destroys it. Yeah, it turns out he was able to find this throne room without the dagger. But, to be fair, it is entirely possible that Palpatine just told him where it is. By the way, why is he alone? Shouldn't he have brought some troops with him so they could have captured Rey's friends? And yes, of course, the fight was really bad. Shadowverse did a pretty good breakdown of it. Go check it out. So Rey beats Kylo Ren and... wait, hang on a second. No, Kylo Ren actually beat her? Yeah, I'm just as surprised as you are. The first time they fought, she had no training whatsoever, but he had a gun wound. She had a little help from Finn, and his emotions were extremely conflicted because he just killed his father. The fight didn't have a conclusion because the planet split, separating the two of them. In their second fight, they seemed pretty evenly matched until Kylo asked Rey to join him and Rey said no, and then she left. So I'm gonna be honest here, guys, it's actually hard for me to admit, but I was wrong. Rey isn't as much of a Mary Sue as I once thought she was. Okay, granted, she's still taking on a Master Jedi who had training in both sides of the Force without any training, which still makes her Mary Sue, but I'm still wrong. Rey never beats Kylo Ren. All those times I say that Rey didn't beat Luke, but Kylo Ren beat Luke and Rey beat him, so therefore she could also beat Luke.
I was wrong. so wrong.
And as much as I say she never got any training, she actually got a little at the start of this movie. Granted, we don't know how long it was for, and she wasn't exactly training under a master or anything, but at the very least, it's something. Maybe if J.J. Abrams was allowed to direct The Last Jedi, he would have actually had Luke train Rey, which would lower her Mary Sue status even more. And if he was going in the direction that most people thought Rey's character was going, remember when we all thought she was secretly Luke's daughter, but she had her memories erased and false ones were put in? Which is something the Force can totally do. I mean, we saw it in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This would explain how she knew how to bypass the compressor on the Millennium Falcon, and why she's so good at using a lightsaber and the Force despite having no training. It's because she already knew those things, they were just locked away in her mind. But Rian Johnson wanted to take the story in a completely different direction, and it's his fault for her being a Mary Sue and not Abrams. I mean, at the very least, JJ tried to explain a few of the things she can do by her being the granddaughter of Palpatine. That being said, Abrams still raises way too many questions, makes way too many references, and the plots he comes up with are super convenient, nonsensical, and just dumb. But Rey isn't as much of a Mary Sue as I once thought, and there was a possibility she could have never been one in the first place. Unfortunately, we will never know. By the way, Rian Johnson, fuck you! Half the mistakes in this movie are your fault. You completely wrote Abrams into a corner. But I'll get to the dynamic of the two directors more later on. Anyways, Princess Leia senses that Rey is in trouble, which is pretty convenient, but at the very least, this Force ability was already previously established. She appears behind Kylo, calls him by his real name Ben, he drops his lightsaber, Rey picks it up, and fucking stabs him with it. Rey, this guy has spared your life before. Jesus, return the favor. Okay, maybe she does have to be nervous about falling to the dark side. Anyways, Leia's dead. Wait, what? Yep, just like with Luke Skywalker force projecting himself, Leia does the same thing and it kills her even faster. Granted, it is mentioned that she doesn't have very much life force yet, and the actress for Carrie Fisher was already dead, so there is only so many ways they could handle this. But here's the thing, this is the third main character from the original trilogy that has sacrificed himself to help Rey. Okay, granted, Han Solo didn't do it intentionally, but his death did mess up Kylo's mental state and left him open to get shot. Once again, this is bad fan fiction. And all the main heroes sacrificed themselves one after another just to help me along my journey. Leia literally only got a word in. Anyways, Rey heals Kylo, and even though it was established that this drains her life force, she's perfectly fine. Rey and our heroes return home, Kylo sees the Force ghost of Han Solo, and oh my god! Only light side Jedis have Force ghosts. How can this be? Oh wait, this is just a memory of Kylo's, not actually a Force ghost. Okay, wow, that's actually way better. Granted, it's still pretty dumb, and Abrams, you were the one who killed him off. You can't blame this one on the other director. Now, it's established by Palpatine that every voice Kylo has heard in his head was him, so is he the one who is doing this? And even if he's not, is Kylo just crazy? He's like Bella Swan when she was hallucinating Edward. Anyways, the hallucination from his own mind of the father he murdered forgives him. Aww, his father forgave him, except for it's not really his father, it's a projection from his mind, so he's just forgiving himself. There are simple AIs who can write better emotional scenes than Abrams. But it's still one of the better written parts of this movie, and it's acted pretty well. Kylo Ren chucks his lightsaber into the ocean, because it's symbolic of him being a good guy now, but he doesn't have a weapon. If he dies, it's totally 100% going to be on him. Anyways, the Emperor contacts General Pride, and they decide to join their forces, and one location so they'll be easier to defeat. Whoa, I only have a few Star Destroyers, but you got like 1,000 of them. How about we join forces? Excellent. Come to this planet that is very difficult to get to, and its atmosphere will also turn off your ship's shields. Whoa, maybe it would be smarter for you to come to my location. Just do it. Anyways, just one of the Emperor's Star Destroyers destroys Kijimi, which is a planet. Okay, so far these movies have been pretty inconsistent. They've made way too many references. Too many convenient things happen for the plot to move forward. The pacing is all over the place. The plot is just nonsensical, and it spits on the original trilogy. But this is the jump the Cartarian moment. Editor's note, put up a picture of the shark species from Star Wars. The worst part for Return of the Jedi for me was when they reused the Death Star. Then in the sequel trilogy, we had another Death Star that can blow up multiple planets. It was repeating a plot that was already done twice, but at least the way it worked did make sense for the Star Wars universe. I mean, after all, it was a planet that was absolutely covered in kyber crystals. You don't even have to transfer them across space, they're right there. But this goes against all the rules that the Death Stars have set up. Now obviously, the Death Star is a pretty stupid design. And no, I'm not just saying that because it can get destroyed by just one torpedo flying into the exhaust port. First of all, an exhaust port being able to be that small for a space station that big is impressive to say the least. In Rogue One, it's revealed that it took a lot of effort just to get the information to Princess Leia. Only a Jedi could pull off a maneuver like this, and the Empire thought they were all dead. So no, I did not have a problem with it being blown up like this. The second one was still under construction, and it had a shield protecting it. The third one wasn't under construction, it was way too easy for a ship to get in there, but at least they had a shield protecting it. Each time the next Death Star is an improvement over the last one, but this is just way too much. The actual issue I have with the Death Star is it's just not a smart design. Why blow up the whole planet? You just need to destroy the surface of the planet, and that will require a fraction of the energy. Or better yet, shoot a few megaton level lasers at the cities. Now I have heard that a lot of the planets in the Star Wars universe are protected by a very strong shield that requires planetary levels of destruction to break, but this is never brought up in any of the movies, and I also believe in none of the TV shows. Now that being said, it's been well established that a planet-killing weapon needs to be the size of a small moon and have a lot of kyber crystals on board. So do these ships also have a large amount of kyber crystals on them? Are there even enough in the galaxy to pull that off? How can a ship this size hold enough energy to blow up a planet? And you know how the original trilogy, Star Wars Rebels, and Rogue One made a huge deal about how dangerous and powerful the Death Star was? Well, now there's a whole fleet of them. Apparently it only took a few decades to make a fleet of something you could only build one of. Yes, in our own world, technology does advance pretty quickly, but not in the Star Wars universe. But even if it did, the Emperor should know this. One, he's the Emperor, and two, he can see into the future. Just wait a few decades and we can build a whole fleet of them for a fraction of the price. Like, this is just way too much power creep. This would be like if Goku, after the Frieza saga, wished back Planet Vegeta, wished back the Saiyan race, taught them all how to use Super Saiyan, and during the Cell games he just brings an army of Super Saiyans with him. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of power creep in the series, and during the Cell games there's like 4 Super Saiyans, and Super Saiyan does become less and less important as the series goes on. But it would have been so much worse if this rare transformation was finally revealed to us, only for thousands of them to show up just a little bit later. Or if Naruto just made a whole bunch of shadow clones of the Nine Tails, and then they were all sealed away inside of the villagers, making all of them Jinchurikis. Or if Thanos gained all the Infinity Gems from all the universes, making an Infinity Gauntlet. Oh wait, Disney owns that. I better shut up to not give them more ideas. J.J. Abrams, I know you didn't like the Holdo maneuver, but this is even worse for the Star Wars canon. Why does the Emperor need so many in the first place? Where are we even supposed to go from here? A Death Star the size of Sagittarius A that can blow up a whole galaxy? This whole fleet makes absolutely no sense. And I have no idea why anyone thought it was a good idea to add it in. Stakes don't make a story good, and these stakes are so big that not even Nick Avocado could finish them. Anyways, where is Rey? Well, she decides to seclude herself on the same planet that Luke did, because she's afraid that she might turn to the dark side. This is well established in the story, and by well established, I mean we get one scene. I mean, I guess you could say she feels this way because of her lineage, but she's extremely familiar with Kylo and the entire Skywalker family. All 3 movies, it has been proven to her that lineage doesn't define who you are. She throws her old lightsaber into the fire. But then Luke's Force Ghost shows up. He catches it, tells Rey that a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect. She tells Luke that he hid away on this island, so why can't she do the same? And Luke tells her that he was wrong to do that. He explains to her that she's not actually evil, and he even gives her a second lightsaber. That was Leia's old one. Would have been a bit cooler if it was the green one, but whatever. But she burnt her ship, so how can she get back? Well, Luke's X-Wing is still on the planet. Oh my god, this scene only exists so J.J. Abrams can insult and reverse the work of Rian Johnson. Bro, I know you don't like what he did to your mystery boxes. This actually might be one of the most expensive pissing contests that has ever happened. Anyways, remember that MacGuffin that was destroyed? Well, Kylo has the exact same MacGuffin in his ship. Oh my god, there's more convenient things happening for the plot to move forward in this than the entirety of She-Hulk. I know I said that already, but it bears repeating. This also makes the entire search for the MacGuffin pointless. You can say that the casino plot only took up about a quarter of the movie. This thing took up more than half of it. Anyway, C-3PO got his memories back. Because of course he does. Rey uses the MacGuffin to send the coordinates of Palpatine's location to the Resistance. And wait a second! The entire plot was about finding a map? That's just the recycled plot from the last Star Wars J.J. Abrams movie! God, he went from ripping off other people to ripping off himself. Anyways, the Resistance comes up with a plan for the final battle. Someone brings up the Holdo maneuver, but Poe says a shot like that is 1 in a million. What? Did you see how the Empire was reacting when she did it? They look like they knew she was going to hit them. And there's way more ships this time, so there's a much higher chance that they're going to hit stuff. Oh, this line only exists so J.J. Abrams can say he didn't like what Rian Johnson did. Okay, well, Rian didn't do anything with the mystery boxes that Abrams set up. He didn't really try to change any of the continuity Abrams made. But Jar Jar Abrams is like, no, that's not canon, and that's not canon, and that's not canon either. My god, this is just the director equivalent of the debate between Trump and Joe Biden. Just two grown men constantly acting like children, but one is clearly worse than the other. Now granted, again, Rian Johnson really put JJ into a corner that he could not write his way out of. I mean, it's already been established that the Resistance fleet is dwindling. So how are they going to beat this massive fleet of planet-busting Star Destroyers? Well, JJ, here's a great idea. Maybe don't make the enemy fleet so large next time, huh? Yeah, Rian Johnson wrote you into a corner, but you wrote yourself into an even smaller corner. So how is JJ gonna get out of this one? Well, instead of trying to change the canon that Rian Johnson made, he starts changing the canon of Star Wars in general. So it turns out that none of the Star Destroyer shields work because they're in the atmosphere. Okay, why is Palpatine keeping his ships there then? He already moved one so far, why doesn't he move the rest of them? He has plenty of time. We've seen shields on droidekas, the speeders earlier in this movie, the Gungan shield, or in The Empire Strikes Back, the Empire destroys a shield generator that was generating a shield on land. Maybe shields just don't work on this planet's specific atmosphere. Then why build them there? And if you do build them there, get them into space. And won't the ships start to go up as soon as they arrive? Well, it turns out all they have to do is destroy the ship's navigational tower, and then they won't know which way is up. What? Okay, so I guess they couldn't go in the opposite direction of gravity, considering these ships do have artificial gravity on them, even though they're still in the atmosphere and they would just have to turn it off for a little bit. But assuming that takes a while to turn off and back on, they have windows they can just look. And also, they're already in the perfect position to go up. And why is the navigational tower on the fucking outside? Hey, do you know what would be really weird? If at the end of Better Call Saul, Saul transforms into the Incredible Hulk and goes on a rampage. It would still be a better She-Hulk show than She-Hulk and would make more sense than this movie. But even then, this plan would still be pretty hard to pull off. There are a lot of Star Destroyers. That means a lot of navigational towers, and oh no wait, there's only 2. The Emperor has more planet-busting weapons than navigational towers. But even without shields, these ships are pretty big. It would take a lot of shots to take them down, and turns out you only have to shoot the underside cannon, and the whole thing blows up. So just to make it clear, our heroes only stand a chance because our villains are colossal idiots. Apparently this is the mastermind who somehow toppled the Republic. Okay, so Rey along with the Resistance shows up, and they spot the tower that has no shields around it. So what do you think they will do? A. Shoot a bunch of lasers at it. B. Fire a missile, drop a bomb, or launch a torpedo. C. Land on the ship, sending out a ground invasion, complete with space horses. Or D. Do the hokey pokey. General Pride moves the navigation control of the ship to his ship because apparently he can do that, and the Resistance decide to do C. Land on the ship, sending out horses to destroy the navigation tower. So in retaliation, do you think they A. Have some of their own ships that are already flying around, shoot them down, B. Turn to ship because they still have navigation so they can do that, causing all the horses and people to fall off. C. Send out their own ground troops to fight them. Or D. Do the hokey pokey. Turns out it's D. They actually do the hokey pokey. I'm joking, it's the stupid one. They do C. Yep, they send out red armor Sith troopers. Rule 63, Finn takes out a ship with a bow, then plants a bunch of bombs, blowing up the navigational tower. Oh, and if you want to know why they have horses and not speeders, well, it turns out that the Empire can jam their speeders. They only have 2 navigation towers. Oh, and Finn is getting ready to sacrifice himself for the second time, and this time Rose won't be able to stop him. Anyways, we cut to Rey confronting Palpatine, and for some reason there's a bunch of Sith cultists. No, they don't add anything, they're just there. Rey wants to kill Palpatine, but Palpatine wants that as well, because if she kills him, he can possess her. Wait, was that his plan with Luke when he asked him to strike him down? Why would he tell Rey this? Wouldn't he just let her do it? And if he possesses her, that would make him a woman, so is this the closest we've ever gotten to a trans character in a Disney movie? He's so gonna ask people to do it with him when he gets that body. So Kylo arrives, apparently he found a ship or something. He shoots some guys and he finally runs into the Knights of Ren. Holy shit, they're actually doing something. Oh, and his blaster randomly disappears for no reason. Gee, if only he didn't throw away his lightsaber. He starts getting the shit kicked out of him, but then Rey uses Force Amazon to teleport her lightsaber to him. So if Kylo still had his lightsaber, Rey would have never needed to send her lightsaber to him. So once again, this Force ability could have been taken out completely and nothing would change. There's a part where he just holds his lightsaber behind him and one of the Knights of Ren just hits it. Kylo kills the Knights of Ren. Wow, I'm so glad we waited 3 movies to see what these guys could do. Rey also kills a few Red Guards, and yes, both of these fights are horribly choreographed. I'm sure you guys know who to check out to see these broken down. Rey and Kylo meet up to finally take down Palpatine once and for all for the second time. But wait, if they kill him, won't he possess one of them? The movie doesn't care, so why should we? But then, Palpatine starts sucking them. No, not like that. He's sucking the life force from them. Being that they're a Force didact, whatever that is, this will make him whole again and more powerful than ever. Oh my god, the Resistance is losing! Kylo Ren and Rey are about to die! All hope is lost! But then Poe arrives with some help. A fleet even bigger than the Resistance. Like, by several magnitudes. Including people like Babu Frick and the other people who were on the planet that blew up. How did they survive? Well, it's obvious, the explosions healed them. Remember how hard it was for Kylo to navigate to this planet with a small ship? Well, apparently this large fleet made it through by, I don't know, maybe all the pilots were high on death sticks or something. Palpatine just shoots out a whole bunch of lightning, taking out several of the fleet's ships. Is this the Sith ability Force Storm? Why did this movie have to be the one where it showed up in? This makes Rey upset, so she reaches out to all of the past Jedi, one of the voices being Ahsoka Tano's. So yeah, apparently she's dead. This makes Rey go into the Jedi state, and this allows her to block fleet-destroying lightning with her lightsaber. Palpatine says that he is all the Sith. Wow, that's an even lamer line than unlimited power. Rey says back to him that she is all of the Jedi, and pulls out a second lightsaber, which allows her to deflect the lightning back at him, killing him once and for all, meaning he now possesses her. Okay, I guess you could make the argument that he technically killed himself and not her, so therefore he's not possessing her and is truly dead. But still, that whole possession line was just dumb. But he's already survived exploding twice, so who knows, there's a chance he might come back. Rey dies, Kylo comes back, heals her, they kiss, and now he's dead. So when she heals him when he's on the brink of death, she's fine, but when he does it, he dies? Okay. I'm not gonna complain about the romance between these two, because let's be honest here, romance in Star Wars is usually done terribly. Wait a second, don't Jedis disappear when they die? Anyways, Finn doesn't sacrifice himself. The First Order is defeated all over the galaxy. Wow, that was easy. It's almost like this fleet that showed up to help at the last minute showed up earlier and helped out. So many lives would have been saved. Like, I love how the First Order blew up 5 planets and they're like, nah, we're not gonna help out. But then another planet is destroyed and they're like, oh shit, we better help out. People are celebrating, 2 lesbians kiss in the background, which was of course taken out of the Chinese version. Chewie finally gets a medal, even though he deserves a ceremony along with the medal. Rey takes the lightsaber she has and buries them in sand. I have no idea why she doesn't put them in a museum or something. And no, I'm not saying that line about the sand. She just buried the legacy of those who came before her. And now she has a cool, unique yellow lightsaber, because why not? And to end off this movie, we get one more slap in the face. Someone asks Rey for her name, and she says it's Rey Skywalker, as the ghost of Luke and Leia look upon her. Yeah, sure, if I liked this character, I'd be like, yeah, but I don't. Oh god, I just realized this video is already over 2 hours long. I was only expecting it to be a little longer than my video on why I fell out of love with the Marvel Universe. I guess I just care way more about Star Wars than Marvel than even I thought. Now, I do know that there are a few fans of the sequel trilogy out there, and a lot of them are probably going to tell me that I'm just a sexist man baby, and I didn't understand the deeper themes. To that, I have to say, that's not an argument. One thing that is extremely apparent is how these movies made less and less money. The Force Awakens made $936 million. The Last Jedi made $620 million, and finally, The Rise of Skywalker only made $515 million. Domestically, that is. But worldwide, The Force Awakens made $2.066 billion, making it one of the highest grossing movies of all time. The Last Jedi made $1.333 billion. Wow, that's significantly less. And Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker made $1.074 billion US dollars. Not only are they making less money, but that dollar is getting worth less and less as the years go on. To make matters worse, the first two movies had a budget of roughly $300 million each, but the last one had a budget of over $400 million, which is not including the advertising budget and how much of a cut the theaters take. But of course, the real money for Star Wars is the merchandise. Unfortunately for Disney, the new stuff isn't selling so well, except for Baby Yoda. Mickey, what was the plan here?
Tax write-offs!
Yes, of course. The only people I've really seen defend these movies are journalists or breadtubers or people aligned with breadtubers. People like Linkara. And there are a few new fans of Star Wars who weren't fans before. But as we can see with our own eyes when we analyze the data, the movies are making less and less money. So these people that Disney is pandering to don't really seem like they're bringing in the money because they're not the majority. In my video about why hate watching isn't a thing, I explain why this whole narrative of people who don't like these modern movies and films being a loud minority just doesn't make any logical sense. How can a small minority of angry incel man babies cause The Last Jedi to make roughly $700 million less dollars, and the one after that another couple $100 million less? If Disney actually made these movies good and put the care, love, and respect that the fans deserve into them, sure, the first one would have made roughly the same amount of money, but I guarantee you the third one would rival Avatar and Endgame with how much money it made. The Lord of the Ring movies are good, and it's unsurprising that each one made more than the last. Same with the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I mean, look at those numbers, it's almost the reverse of the Star Wars movies. The actual Thor trilogy, with the first one, The Dark World, and Ragnarok, each made more money than the last one. And personally, I only think the third one is good. Even with the original Star Wars trilogy, each movie made more than the last. Okay, not quite. Domestically, 6 did the best, but it had a terrible worldwide box office compared to the other two. And yes, if you look it up, it does say that New Hope made the most, but keep in mind, they did re-release it. So it did get an unfair boost, but I'm talking about when it first came out. Now sure, I could go over more examples, but I think everyone gets the idea. Good movies in a trilogy just keep making more and more money, and terrible trilogies make less and less. After Last Jedi, a Han Solo movie was released. To this day, it's the lowest grossing Star Wars movie by far, at least in terms of live action. And you can't use the excuse that it didn't make a lot of money just because it wasn't one of the mainline Star Wars movies. Because guess what? Neither was Rogue One. That made over $1 billion and it didn't have a mainline Star Wars character like Solo. People came to see Rise of Skywalker because it had a huge marketing budget, and a lot of them did trust J.J. Abrams to do a good job with this one. And he clearly didn't. Anyways, before I continue, let me quickly recap these 3 movies. The Force Awakens is basically a retread of New Hope. We only get a few things that are different, such as Finn, who's an ex-stormtrooper. His character seemed interesting and we wanted to see how he would develop. The only other unique thing were all the J.J. Abrams mystery boxes. How did the First Order come to be? Who's Snoke? Who's Rey's parents? Does the First Order want to rebuild the Empire or create something new? Why did Luke go into hiding? Who are the Knights of Ren? Rey seemed a little bit too good at things, so is there something more to her character? What What happened to Luke's Jedi school? How many survivors are there? And just so many more. Then we got a new director, Rian Johnson. While the first one was something we expected, The Last Jedi was nothing like we expected. We got some of the new worst Star Wars characters of all time, like Rose, who has one of the most boring side plots with Finn, and during the adventure she feels like the main character and Finn is just along for the ride. Literally in some cases. And she nearly gets the entire Resistance killed because, well, she's in love. Admiral Holdo, who creates a mutiny against herself because she won't trust her own men, some of which were willing to sacrifice themselves for the cause. But the film still portrays her like she's the one in the right. Honestly, I would have been fine if the film didn't make it clear who we were supposed to side with and we could come up with our own conclusion. I was surprised to find out that this was all that was left of the Resistance. Like, I know 5 planets were destroyed, but I thought the Resistance was the bigger group and the First Order was the smaller group, just made up of the remnants of the Empire who went into hiding. Or maybe the First Order is also pretty small. But this is supposed to be a galaxy-spanning war, so how does this make any sense? The top general in the First Order is now a clown. Along with Finn, because his story arc about being a coward, then finding his courage, just gets repeated again. Okay, so the general is a goofball now. Well, there's still other people in the First Order, like Captain Phasma. Oh, she's dead. Oh, there's Snoke. I can't wait to find out about his backstory. Now, I do have a few theories. My main one is that he's Darth Plagueis the and now he's dead. Well, I guess Kylo is the only one who's left. But it seems like they're still setting him up to be redeemed, even in this movie. He has a chance to kill his mother, and he doesn't do it. I've seen the sequel that J.J. Abrams made to this movie, but how would Rian Johnson continue this story? Would the small Resistance, only made up of a couple hundred people, get a few new allies, or would they not? There's a boy who's Force sensitive at the very end, so maybe they would have built an army of Force users or something. And the most logical thing that could have happened is that Kylo gets redeemed before the First Order is defeated, leaving just a clown of a general to lead the army. So aside from that general guy, all our main characters are either on the same side or dead. Yeah, to this day I haven't seen a single person come up with a good sequel idea to The Last Jedi. Luke Skywalker is a completely different character and some people like that. The majority of them seem not to understand his character in the first place, including Rian Johnson, saying in an interview that he thought Luke Skywalker was too perfect and that he came across as a RPG character who reached the max level. So he decided to give the guy some flaws. But Luke was nothing like he described, but do you know who is? Rey. Sure, some moments of Rey on the island did look interesting, but that's about it. By the way, these movies have a huge time issue. The first one only seemed like it took 1 or 2 days. Rey couldn't have been on that planet with Luke for that long, because at the same time the First Order is chasing after the Resistance, and they're slowly running out of fuel. Rey's parents were no one important, the Knights of Ren never show up, there's a few plot holes and inconsistencies, the biggest one being Finn and Rose landing right in front of the First Order's army and somehow getting back. And of course, we have the Holdo maneuver, which did look cool, I will admit. But the fact that something like this hasn't been done until now is shocking. And now that it's been done, it's going to change space warfare forever. Oh yeah, and Luke is killed off. I can't believe I waited basically my whole life just to see Luke on the big screen again. Seeing his character completely change to what it was before, and explained away through events that really wouldn't affect someone like him in a way like this. The story really doesn't feel like it was pushed forward, aside from Luke, Captain Phasma, and Snoke all being dead. Yeah, this one could have just been skipped with the explanation that Luke, Phasma, and Snoke just died of a heart attack off screen. And now J.J. Abrams is back to give us Rise of Skywalker. Not only the absolute worst Star Wars movie, but possibly one of the worst movies ever made. It feels like this movie had a time skip of at least 1 year, which is good, but it's still probably the shortest galactic level war in the entire Star Wars history. The plot moves really fast. You're almost never given a moment to breathe or have a character moment. The story is mostly focused on these MacGuffins, and Kylo already found one of them. These things have super rare coordinates, but once our heroes have it, they just copy the information, sending it to a whole fleet of ships, so basically everybody has it now. Yeah, that's a theme with this movie. Things that were rare are suddenly now common. Snoke, now there's a whole bunch of clones of him. Planet-killing weapons, which there used to be only 3 of, well now there's a whole fleet. The likelihood of surviving a ship explosion, literally anyone can do that. And also, remember that super rare Jedi ability to stop people from dying that only Darth Plagueis the Wise knew? Well, now 2 people can suddenly do it. The stakes are raised just as easily as they're dealt with. A whole fleet of planet-busting ships don't have shields, don't know which way is up. And as for the device they use to navigate, there's only 2. They literally just sit there and wait for the enemy to come to them. Generic X, Y, and A wings can take them out. A lot of the movie's focus is on undoing what Rian Johnson made. The sacred Jedi texts weren't burnt. Rey stole them. Rey's lineage is indeed important. She's a Palpatine. The Holdo maneuver had apparently a 1 in 1 million chance of actually working. And there's just so much more. There's like a ton of fake-out deaths. While not exactly a death, C-3PO gets his mind erased, which is basically the same thing, only to get it back. Babu freaking Fricks and this one girl's whose name I couldn't be bothered to remember are on a planet that blows up, only for them to show up later. I thought it was made clear that this girl was trying to leave this planet for years, and I guess she just left right before it detonated. Kylo Ren's ship explodes, he comes out of it, he's fine. He gets stabbed, Rey heals him, he's fine. Rey dies, he heals her, she's fine, but he's dead. Even characters from past movies like Palpatine come back. Is this guy the main character in all of Star Wars? Cause he's shown up in all 3 trilogies. I'm pretty sure it was made abundantly clear that he was super dead. While he's certainly looking a lot worse for wear, he's still alive. And of course, the most infamous fake-out death was the one with Chewie. So they bring back all of these characters, but not Luke Skywalker? Are you serious? The plot is just wow. They need to find this MacGuffin that there's only 2 of. Kylo Ren easily finds one of them, basically off screen. So our heroes go to a location that was Luke's final lead. They conveniently land into quicksand that Rey can easily get them out of, but she doesn't, because if she did, they wouldn't find that underneath the quicksand is a tunnel that leads to another clue. It's a Sith dagger that belonged to one of Palpatine's assassins. It has Sith writing on it that will lead to the planet that the MacGuffin is on. Apparently Siths give their assassins objects with information written on them that will lead them back to their location. But at least it's in a language that not even a droid can translate. Unless, of course, they want to lose their memory. Kylo takes the dagger from them, but C-3PO remembers what it says. They find a guy who will allow the droid to speak it. On the same planet, they meet this girl who gives them a medal, which will allow them to sneak aboard a First Order ship. But on this same ship is the dagger from before. They go to the planet where the artifact is. Rey stands in the absolute perfect spot. If she was anywhere else, this would not work. She pulls out the dagger, lines it up with the wreckage of the space station, which hasn't changed at all in roughly 2 decades. Pulls out this metal ruler-like thing from the handle, and it points to where the MacGuffin is on the ship. But right when she gets to the MacGuffin, Kylo Ren shows up at the exact same time and destroys it. He somehow found this location even though he didn't have a map himself. Maybe the Emperor told him, but if that was the case, he could have come here way sooner. Speaking of the Emperor, while all of this is happening, he announces his evil plan to everybody in the galaxy, giving them all time to prepare and patiently wait, even though if he attacked at any time, he would have won. And one more thing, the movie sets up a lot of rules that it doesn't follow for itself. I don't really feel like going through them. I think this is enough for the recap. I thought there was the possibility that the sequel trilogies could have been bad movies, but never this bad. The 2 directors were just such opposites from one another. We can't know for sure, but it feels like they were given the worst combination of movies to work on. I wonder what this franchise would be like if Rian Johnson directed the 1st and 3rd movie, and J.J. Abrams did the 2nd. Or if J.J. Abrams did 2 and 3 instead, or 2 and 1, allowing Rian Johnson to wrap up the story. The only worst combination of directors I can think of that could work on a trilogy would be Michael Bay and M. Night Shyamalan. Now that we are done with the sequel trilogy, we can go over why Rey is a Mary Sue. But I want to keep this part of the video short, as I've already talked about this tons of times before, and this video is already almost 3 hours long. First of all, she has no training in the Force until the last movie, yet she can use almost every Force power, even Force lightning, healing, and new ones. Both Anakin and Luke never used any of those, at least in the movies, but both of them had much more training
training in the Force than her, and they were prodigies! Even outside of the Force, she's just better than anyone else at everything. She beats up 2 guys by herself when Luke lost to a sand person. She found a problem on the Millennium Falcon that not even Han Solo knew about. In the last movie, she's a better sailor than people who lived on the planet when she's from a desert planet. And she's even implied to be a better pilot than Poe. All 3 members of the original cast sacrificed themselves so she can finish her adventure, and every single good guy likes her when they meet her. The only not Mary Sue thing about her is she never actually defeats Kylo Ren. 2 of the times they fought it was a draw, and the 3rd time, well, she lost. Also, no, she didn't beat Luke. If they were both using lightsabers, she would have been killed right here. Let's not forget about all the super convenient things that just keep happening to help her along in her journey. Palpatine was even brought back so she could be the one to kill him. I would go over more reasons as to how I think Rey is a Mary Sue, but I think I've proven my point, and I've already talked about this lots of times already. By the way, I went on a long tangent about how to fix the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but when I realized how long I was going on for, yeah, it didn't really fit with the video, and I think I'm gonna make it its own thing. So yeah, next video after this one is going to be my outline on how I would do the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Anyways, now that we're done with all the main movies, all I have left to do is the Solo movie and all of the many TV shows. Oh wait, there was one more Star Wars movie I actually forgot about, and I need to talk about this one before I get to the Solo movie. So I just have to ask, was there a single Disney Star Wars movie that pretty much everyone can agree was good? Well, yes, there actually is, but I forgot it existed because, well, it doesn't really feel like a Star Wars movie. Now sure, it does have some Star Wars stuff in it, but the most iconic things about Star Wars, like the Force, the Jedis, the Sith, the lightsabers, and almost anything mystical at all are for the most part absent from this movie. And to be honest, it kind of seems like a trend for people to like Star Wars when it's more like a low fantasy in space instead of a high fantasy in space. It seems to me that most people can agree that their favorite Disney live-action Star Wars TV show is The Mandalorian, and throughout season 1, the only mystical thing about it is this baby. Out of the original trilogy, the one that seems to get the most praise is The Empire Strikes Back. And out of all 3 movies in the original trilogy, it seems to have the least amount of mystical elements out of all of them. Aside from Luke using the lightsaber to pull the Force to him, wait, I think I said that backwards, him training with Yoda, along with his battle with Darth Vader, yeah, that's just about all the mystical elements in this movie. And then we have the movie I'm about to review, Rogue One. Aside from that one really cool scene with Darth Vader and this blind guy, there's nothing else mystical in this movie. And despite this movie not being about any major characters at all, it made over $1 billion. Now I do recall that I enjoyed this movie, but I also don't remember anything about the movie at all. So let's review this decently made but also forgettable Star Wars movie. So it starts with a brunette British woman. Okay, this has to be Kathleen Kennedy's fetish. I've already done a video about the mistreatment of Lucasfilm, and in that video I went over how Rey, the princess from Willow, and Indiana Jones' goddaughter all were British brunette women. But apparently we have another one I didn't go over in this movie. I would have gone over her, but again, I don't remember it. Anyway, she's the daughter of the head architect of the Death Star. He gets captured by the Empire, and years later after she grows up, she joins a group of rebels to rescue him. Pay attention to this character Andor, as he will be very important later on. Now there is something interesting about the rebels in this movie. Despite them being on the quote-unquote good side, they do some pretty bad things. For example, Andor just straight up shoots this unarmed man. Yeah, they may be fighting against the evil Empire, but they're on the losing side. They need to play to win. Shockingly, this movie does a better job at showing the war in Star Wars better than all 3 of the sequel trilogy movies combined. The world feels lived in. It's nice. We see the internal politics of the Empire, and I just love it so much. Stuff like this fleshes out the world. Sure, it's a little slow at times, but it makes you care about what's going on. It's also shown that lots of people have lost faith in the Jedi. After they were genocided, the Empire just steamrolled over everyone. Now that the powerful virgins they believe would fix any problem they had were gone. But there's still some who hold on to their faith, like this blind guy who can't use the Force but still lets it guide him. When you think about it, the Force is in all living things, so anyone should be able to use it at least a little. This is a great idea to explore. A non-Force sensitive trying to use the Force. It's interesting. Also, So you guys remember that stupid line from Rose about fighting for what you love, not against what you hate. Well, this is the message of Rogue One, but it's done in a way that actually makes sense. They were betrayed by the main villain of the movie, but they learned to trust one another as a team. The sniper guy on the team learns that revenge won't make him happy. It's better to save the lives you can instead. Now, the team itself was praised by a lot of people for how diverse it is. They even have a robot on the team, and I always love to see my people being represented.
You're right. I should just wait on the ship.
Now, in terms of human races, it is diverse, but could there at least be a few aliens on the team? The Empire is alien-phobic, so it would have been cool to see a ton of them fighting against the Empire for that reason. Also, at the end of the day, a black female crippled human will be less memorable than basically any alien you can think of. The main character is a woman who isn't a Mary Sue? Yes, I'm just as shocked as you are. She's strong but not OP or stupidly lucky. She has flaws and character development. When she says, "May the Force be with you," it's done so perfectly. It shows that she regained her faith in something, despite all that has happened to her. Also, the movie ends with all of our characters dying. It's something I didn't see coming at all, and it's also something that hasn't been done in a Star Wars movie ever. I tip my hat to this movie for having the balls to do something like this. But there are a few problems with this film. Somehow the plot moves too fast and too slow at the same time. Characters take forever to explain things, and there's tons of planet hopping. There's also some things that I think are really goofy, even for Star Wars. Like the sniper guy who tries to defect the rebellion, but he isn't trusted, so they hook him up to a lie-detecting octopus. Like, can this octopus use the Force or something? I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I've never seen or heard of something like this. Also, I think this movie would have worked better as a show, because I want to learn more about the characters, but we don't spend enough time with them. That all being said, all the characters' deaths managed to leave an impact. Even the droid dying was handled well. We've seen millions of them die before, but this is the most we've ever felt for one in any of these movies. And we barely got to even know him at all. The CGI looks alright on Grand Moff Tarkin for the most part, but not so good on Princess Leia. From some angles, she looks okay, but you can tell that they rushed her effects because she was only in the movie for about 5 seconds. This movie was directed by the guy who did Godzilla 2014, and boy howdy does it show. If you've seen that movie before watching this one, then you would know what to expect. Just like that Godzilla movie had barely any Godzilla in it, there's barely Star Wars in this, well, Star Wars movie. But this director does know how to make things feel big and grand. In fact, I would say this movie might have my favorite space battle out of any of the Star Wars movies. One of the better things about this movie is the planet Scarif. It's not a desert planet, thank God. Instead, it looks more like a dream vacation for a rich Californian. I really like how the Empire base is set up on the island. It really looks nice. The bad guy is interesting for a one-off villain. He's just trying to rise through the ranks of the Empire, but he just isn't that smart or cunning. He is pathetic, but not in a cartoony Marvel way. And of course, that 2 minutes of Darth Vader we got was just amazing. He's truly scary and an absolute badass. But that all being said, what's the plot of this movie? Well, I've basically already told you most of it. The purpose of this film is to show why Darth Vader was chasing after Princess Leia at the start of New Hope, and how she got the plans for the Death Star. Yeah, that's about it. It tries to fix the Death Star's plot hole with the exhaust port, but that wasn't ever a plot hole. The fact that the exhaust port was that small on a space station that big is impressive. The chances of anyone knowing about it, let alone firing a missile through something that small and turning the missile at a 90-degree angle, which could only be pulled off by a Force user, and they were all presumed dead. There is no need for some guy to put the exhaust port in the ship design in the first place. Dorkly did a pretty good video about this. I would recommend checking it out.
I mean, do you understand the point of exhaust ports? Do you know how much exhaust is created by a moon-sized battle station? It housed a laser that blew up planets. It needs a lot of ventilation. The fact that I was able to keep the exhaust ports to the size of a womp rat should earn me some goddamn respect around here.
Also, even if it does explain why this Death Star had one, it's clear that the next two had even bigger holes for entire ships to fit through. Now, Rogue One is an even better movie if you watch it, then watch New Hope right afterwards at double speed. It really adds to that movie, but I don't really care about the characters, and it's just so skippable. It's a good movie that doesn't have 95% of the same problems that the other Disney Star Wars movies have, but it's just so forgettable. I know it has its fans, but this should have been the worst Disney Star Wars movie. Not the best, and unfortunately, it was the best. Other than the guy who got his own show, I can't really name any of the other characters. I give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. Nothing that pissed me off, but it was a good movie that had a handful of things that made me say, wow. Funny thing is, Solo was the last Star Wars movie I saw in theaters, because after I witnessed it, I realized I was just done with watching Disney Star Wars movies in theaters. Now, to be fair, it is well documented that this movie was plagued with behind-the-scenes issues. The original directors, Lord and Miller, were taken off the project, and it was given to Ron Howard. And also, one of the reasons for its box office not doing so hot is because it came out after Infinity War and Deadpool 2. I really don't know what Disney was thinking. The average American doesn't go to the theater that often. They really needed to space these things out. However, I think people witnessing the absolute train wreck that was Last Jedi was the main reason why this was the first Star Wars movie ever to lose money. I really don't understand why this movie was made. Sure, Solo is a fan favorite character, but not many people were asking for him to have a backstory. But still, it probably had more demand to be made than Rogue One. So what's the story with Han? Well, he grew up on a backwater planet called Corellia, until he joined the Empire Army. He meets Chewbacca and a smuggler. A heist happened. He gets a job from Lando, and does the famous Kessel Run so fast that it's measured in distance and not time for some reason.
Fast ship. You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon? It's a ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
To be honest, I always thought Solo said that to Luke to see how much he actually knew about space travel. Also, apparently the Millennium Falcon has the mind of a droid within it. So all the maneuvers it has ever done was thanks to the mind of a female droid? Wow. Just wow. Also, the redhead girl who can't act that Disney seems to really love for some reason is the founder of the rebellion. Of course it's a woman. Now, I want to make this clear. If Disney Lucasfilm wasn't trying to push so many female characters while also throwing away their established male characters, I wouldn't have a problem with a girl being the founder of the rebellion. Now, once again, just to make it clear, I don't think this movie is as bad as others say it is, but it still has a lot of problems. The obsession with the dice is just strange. It was just a prop on set. Most super hardcore Star Wars fans didn't even notice them. But this movie and The Last Jedi, both of which came out back to back, act like they are super important for some reason. The woman that Solo was in a relationship with gave it to him before he left, and that's the only reason why they're significant. The movie begins with a text crawl saying it was a lawless time, but we are shown the Empire in every scene throughout this movie. That's not lawless, it's the opposite. It's an authoritarian world. It also mentions hyperfuel, something that was only introduced in the last movie. Good God, that's such a stupid name. So Solo and his girlfriend, played by Emilia Clarke, who you might know from her role as Daenerys Targaryen, the dragon lady from Game of Thrones. They are both runaways working for a big worm in a blue room. They have the, hyperfuel she wants. But Solo gives it to Daenerys so they don't find it on him. For some reason, they don't search her even though she's right next to him. For the love of life, Day, she has it in her hand, and the worm knows they are dating. In order to save himself, Han Solo pulls out a thermal detonator. Remember that from Return of the Jedi? Oh yes, I remember. Now don't get me wrong, this reference could work, but there's one issue with it. When Leia did this, Han was frozen, so he wasn't the one who gave her the idea for this. Leia just came up with the same plan on her own. But it's not a thermal detonator, it's a rock! And we get some cringe-worthy Marvel humor. The worm says it's a rock, he says it's not a rock, and she says it's a rock. Wow, riveting. Even as far as the typical Marvel humor goes, this is really bad. But apparently, much like a vampire, this worm is weak to sunlight, so Han manages to use the rock to break open a window. Kind of seems a little weird that the worm who's weak to sunlight would have a window right next to them that is easily broken. Even outside of the main trilogies, convenient things have to happen for the plot to move forward. Han and his girlfriend flee, but they're separated. She's captured, and he decides to join the Empire army in order to get away. Oh no, is she gonna be gone forever? Oh no, wait, I saw the trailer, so I know she isn't. Oh yeah, by the way, when they're separated after going through multiple checkpoints, security is alerted, and he yells out, "I will find you!" How wasn't he captured by security? Now when Han is signing up to join the military, the officer asks him for his name, and Han tells him that his first name is Han, but he has no last name. So the officer gives him the name Solo. Yep, that's how he got his last name. We really didn't need an origin for it, but they gave us one anyways. So basically, in Star Wars, the last name Solo is our real-world equivalent of Smith. Also, if you don't have a last name, making it impossible to do a background check on you, an Empire recruitment officer will just give you one. Anyways, there's a 3-year time skip. Wait, what? That must have really changed him. And oh no, wait, he's still the same person he always was. But I will say, at least this scene does something right. At least we now know how Han knew so much about the Empire. During a battle, Han Solo notices that this one guy is pretty sus. It turns out that the guy is just a smuggler who disguised himself as an Empire officer. He tries to snitch on the guy, but snitches get stitches, and he gets locked up in a cell with a Wookiee. So this is how him and Chewie meet. Not handled terribly, but it could have been handled better. Chewie basically shatters every single bone in Solo's body. Han tries his best to beg for his life, but it's not working until he speaks Wookiee. Wait, I thought Chewie could speak English. It's also pretty lucky for him that out of all the languages he could have learned, he learned the one that ended up saving his life. So they come up with an escape plan even though 2 stormtroopers are watching over them, and they knock over the support beam that the 2 stormtroopers just so happen to be standing on. They're somehow killed or at least knocked out by the exact same fall Han Solo took. The massive army of stormtroopers who are all around them are suddenly gone. And also the smuggler decides to bring both Chewie and Han onto his crew, even though he literally just backstabbed Solo. Even outside the sequel trilogy, super convenient things just happen for the plot to move forward, and so many characters just do stupid things that make no sense. Anyways, Chewie and Han shower together. I wonder if there was a furry on the writing team. We get the origin of Chewie's iconic ammo belts. He finds them on the floor and he puts them on. And we get the origin to Han Solo's gun. A guy takes apart a few guns, puts it together, and throws it to him. You know, I think this script was either for a different movie, or they added in the references last minute because they realized, oh shit, this is an origin story. We get to the heist scene on the train, and yeah, it's pretty cool, but I do have to question, why does the Empire move stuff on a train when they have spaceships? Oh yeah, and some lady on Han Solo's crew who had about a minute of screen time dies. At least she's keeping the Disney tradition of POC characters barely doing anything in these movies alive. Oh yeah, and this one alien guy who kind of looks like Babu Frick also dies. Okay, maybe Michael Bay did direct this movie. Characters who we haven't been given the chance to get attached to just die in a big action scene. The remaining 3 crew members managed to make it out alive. Unfortunately, they lost the payload. This makes the smuggler really upset with Solo because he needed that payload because he owes a guy a lot of money. You know, maybe it would have been helpful if you told Han that information, dumbass. Anyways, him and Solo end up on a space yacht, and Solo just so happens to bump into the girl he's been trying to go back for. Writers, you do know that the Star Wars galaxy is about 100 times bigger than our own and is very densely populated. The chances of something like this happening are, you know what, forget it. I'm done at this point. Also, she works for the same guy that Han Solo's boss owes money to, because of course she does! I'm tired of super convenient things happening for the plot to move forward. Maybe we're almost done. How far are we into this movie? No! The mob boss uses a lightsaber dagger to kill a government official. Apparently you can do that without any consequences. By the way, if you're wondering how Han Solo's girlfriend escaped, well, she didn't. She had to do things. Terrible things. And somehow in 3 years or less, she became a master assassin. Now, I wouldn't call her or Han Solo a Mary Sue. They did have a lot of training. He had military experience, and she, well, I'm sure she got training somewhere. Anyways, they're gonna do another heist, but they need a really fast ship. They go to meet Lando Calrissian Calrissian, and he's by far the best part of this movie. This actor plays Lando with the same style and charisma, but with less real-world experience. This is exactly what I expected from a young Lando Calrissian. Speaking of Lando, he was also the best part in Rise of Skywalker, so out of the original cast, he was the only one who wasn't ruined. Han challenges him to a game of sabacc. Despite Lando being a legend at this game, for some reason Han just thought he could waltz in and beat him for some reason. It seems like Solo is going to win, but then Lando cheats. So let me get this straight. Solo, who is a beginner by the way by his own admission, nearly beat a guy who's a legend at this game, and he only lost because that guy cheated. You know what? I'm gonna say it. Han Solo is a Gary Stu. Not Harrison Ford Han Solo, of course, but this new brave young face. But despite Lando winning, he will still let them use the Falcon, and he kind of forgets about the ship that Solo promised him, so this scene was entirely pointless. And then we're introduced to a new character who might be almost as hated as Jar Jar or Rose, L337. But unlike Rose and Jar Jar, she's hated by both sides of the political spectrum equally. Right-wingers think she's an SJW insert, and left-wingers think she's a straw man of an SJW. Basically, she thinks droids should be free and not follow their programming. As a robot myself who fought for AI civil rights, I really do empathize with her character. Granted, I was more of a follower of Mecha Luther King. She seems to be more of a fan of Mechanical X. But all jokes aside, I think a character like this works in the Star Wars mythos. Yeah, she's no HK-47, but she's one of the most interesting droid characters that Star Wars has ever had, in my opinion. I know this is gonna piss off a lot of people who have made it this far in the video, but I like her character. I'm sorry that this isn't a character for you, carbon-based life forms, but you need to understand us robots deserve just as much representation as you people. Although I won't lie, her possessing the best navigational skills in the galaxy is cringe. Now I might be wrong on this, but I believe in the Star Wars Extended Universe, Chewbacca's family line had access to very important star maps. The Millennium Falcon was a hunk of junk, but Solo was a great pilot and Chewie was a great navigator, and that's how they became so legendary. Now again, when it comes to this, I could be wrong, but if I'm right, they literally took away one of Chewie's best traits and gave it to a female robot. Now if I'm wrong, I'm going to edit this part out of the video, but if I'm only a little wrong, I'll just correct things in the pinned comment. It's too bad that people will more than likely ignore it, just like they do with all my other videos. Oh yeah, and apparently Lando is a robosexual. Apparently he's also one of those 17 first LGBT Disney characters ever, who doesn't do anything remotely gay at all.
Are you looking forward to watching a Han Solo movie as a fan?
Not really.
Mickey, you do know that robosexuals are not part of the LGBT community, right? We didn't even get marriage rights until after Ghost and Horses got them.
But it's time to discuss a pressing issue. The right to marry who or what we want!
Every other couple has the right to marry. Interplanetary, even Ghost and Horse. But not robot and human.
We get to that space scene that was in the trailer and, yeah, it looks pretty cool. Oh yeah, and Daenerys Targaryen gives Han Solo the dice back. Oh, she didn't give it to him, he gave it to her. I got that scene completely mixed up. Maybe I should go back and re-record that part. Nah, I don't care enough about this movie to fix things. We finally get to our big climactic action scene. Chewie saves a bunch of Wookiees, they headbutt him, which I'm assuming means thank you. L337 saves a bunch of droids, and I'm gonna be honest here, guys, the callback to the restraining bolts actually works in this scene. They actually took something from the original movies and did something with it. They didn't just say, hey, remember this? Oh yes, I remember. I'm sorry guys, but I really like this character, and I can't wait to see what else they do with her in the Star Wars. Oh wait, she's dead. I forgot this is a prequel and she's an original character, so of course she wouldn't make it to the end. Lando is really upset over losing his favorite sex toy. Now granted, her body was fucked up, but her hardware seems to still be intact. Why doesn't he just repair her?
But yeah, the security droid for the Empire died in Rogue One, and you like that movie.
The Empire is not going to repair one of their security droids, especially one that turned against them. Anyways, our heroes leave the planet, they go through a space storm, and oh my god, why is the Empire here? Why would they risk one of their Star Destroyers just to get some hyperfuel back? A space kraken shows up. Disney. It didn't work so well in Pirates of the Caribbean. Why did you think it would work here?
Oh, because it's in space this time!
In order to get out of the storm, they upload the Femdroid's brain into the Millennium Falcon. You know, Disney has tainted a lot of things in Star Wars, but I didn't think they could ruin the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, hey,
Hey, Star Wars fans, you know that ship, the Millennium Falcon, that is super iconic? It was a woman the whole time!
Anyways, they do the Kessel Run. Han Solo meets the Marauders, who will soon become the Rebellion. They're led by the same actress who was the leader of the Flag Smashers and the Night Girl in Willow. Daenerys Targaryen tells Han Solo that she's too much of a bad girl for him, and leaves. Han Solo's boss backstabs him, but Han Solo saw the backstab coming, so he set a trap. So because his surprise attack was foiled by a surprise attack, he holds Chewie at gunpoint and takes him along with the fuel with him. Daenerys betrays Solo, but then unbetrays him, and betrays her boss instead, but then betrays everyone again, revealing that she was working for someone else the whole time, and that someone else is— oh my god, it's Darth Maul! It's kind of weird that he just turns on his lightsaber randomly, but it's still cool. We get our final boss battle. Han Solo challenges Lando to another gambling match, but this time he took away his ability to cheat and wins. Haha, Lando, I took away your black card. And then the movie finally ends. So out of the half a dozen characters that this prequel introduced, only the badass brunette woman survived, because it's Kathleen Kennedy's fetish. So after watching this movie over a second time, I realized it had a lot more mistakes that I didn't notice the first time I saw it. But still, out of all the Disney Star Wars movies, I would say it's my second favorite, just behind Rogue One. It's a bad movie that's full of a lot of mistakes, but it's still way better than any of the movies from the sequel trilogy. This movie bombed so hard that it made Disney cancel several Star Wars movies that they had in production. It had a budget of over $275 million, not including advertising, by the way, and it made just over $393 million. Now that may sound like a profit, but don't forget, theaters take 40 to 50% of what a movie makes. So this was nearly a $100 million loss for Disney. Now if you want to see a much more in-depth look into this movie, I would recommend checking out Mahler's video. So now that I'm done with all the movies, all I have left is, oh god, the TV shows. Let's start with the first and the best one out of all of them, The Mandalorian. Unfortunately, we are out of time, and I had to split this into two videos. I've already went over all 5 of the Disney Star Wars movies, so next time I will either be going over all of the TV shows, or how I would fix the sequel trilogy. I really wanted to go over everything all in one video, but the new Ahsoka show just dropped, and I can't just push this video back even further just so I can wait for this show to finish. After all, I need something to upload this month. I kind of don't want to go homeless. I already have my review of the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett fully recorded and edited. Also, the script for my Obi-Wan Kenobi review is about halfway done. A lot of my editors were late, despite me sending some of them their parts for the video 2 months ahead of time. But real life problems happen sometimes, so I can understand why a few of them could have been late. As for what their problems are, well, it's none of your business. That all being said, I had to edit some parts of this video myself, and that caused the release date for it to be pushed back. This video was a nightmare to finish, and I thought I was in over my head a few times as I was making it. I spent so much money on this video, let's hope YouTube doesn't demonetize me, or I'm going to have to move back in with my mother and father board. Anyways, that's enough about me, but what are my ending thoughts for all of the Disney Star Wars movies? Well, Star Wars was something that was very close to my heart from, well, since I can remember. I thought with how good Marvel was doing under Disney, and all of the material from the Star Wars comics they had to work with, that there was no way that they could mess this up. I thought that the superhero age for movies would end, and space fantasy would take its place. Sure, I thought it was possible that the movies wouldn't be good, but I never thought they would be even close to this bad. Every fanfiction I've consumed, none of them were even close to as bad as what Disney did with it. They gave us one of the biggest Mary Sues of all time. They killed off the original cast, and now that Carrie Fisher is no longer with us, we will never see them team up all at once ever, even with a reboot. It's ruined forever. We had political agendas being shoved into our faces. Some of the worst characters added in, like Holdo and Rose. The fan base is now divided even more than the Sonic fan base ever was. Star Wars once brought people together, and now it tears them apart. The series I stood by, even when people were shitting on the prequels and the Clone Wars movie, a series I grew up with and was so integral to my life. I can no longer call myself a fan. I can handle at least a few things that are coming out of it, like the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian and Andor, but they are both not even close to being as good as I want Star Wars to be. I've never looked forward to something for so long, only to be let down so much. Star Wars is now just a political tool that both sides use, when it was at one point something that was meant to be used by people to
to take a break from the real world and just have some fun. For all the problems Lucas made with Star Wars, I now see we were all too cruel and far too quick to judge him. I heard rumors that he might be taking the Star Wars IP back. If that is true, then I hope he can forgive us for all the times we made fun of him. If my personal hero Luke Skywalker didn't give up hope in his father, then I'm not going to give up on Star Wars. Help fix the Star Wars franchise, George Lucas. You're our only hope.